Welcome to Down Underworld Denizens, episode 15. Hey, I'd like to start with we're going to actually have two introductory questions today. The first introductory question. So last episode we actually spotlighted a rumor that Get the Ref podcast found or had alerted to them, and I want to just say, hey, if those rumors talked about last episode were, by and large going to come to pass. What would you add or change to the new edition of Blood Bowl that is allegedly going to be announced on the 28th of August and drop in September this year?
Oh, I'll take this one.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. No, I'll take this one. Um, my biggest gripe with the 2020 rule set is star players and their access. I love the fact that back in the LRB days, each team had access to only six stars, and as we heard when we were interviewing Tom Anders, they were also kind of tiered. So you had a low price star, a mid price, and so on. I'd like to see them do something with stars. And I know they have these keywords that define them of where they come from, Halfling Thimble Cup or Old World Classic. But they they play on teams that they shouldn't be allowed to play on. So I'd like, say, Griff Overworld. Yes, he's an Old World Classic, but he has a price that he pays that when he plays on a human team or a nobility team. But then anybody else in that bracket, maybe there's a 50K or a 100K tax put on top of it.
Ooh, a bit like the
So
Master
you're
Chef,
talking
is what you're
about
saying.
tiered pricing for the same star, depending on which team they play for. Keep some of that wider access,
Yeah,
but make other teams pay more for him.
Well, I
I
mean,
could
we
get
have
on board
yeah,
with
I'd be
that.
happy with that.
we have precedents like the Master Chef, right? Like if you're a Halfling team and you want the Master Chef, it's 100K. If you're a Gnome team and you want the Master Chef, well, it's 300K.
Well, anyone can have a Master Chef for 300.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's kind of a bit like that, I guess, is what you're saying, Millsy. That's an interesting idea.
Well, it would go some way it would level up the playing field so stars wouldn't be seen on teams that they shouldn't be allowed to play on.
Yeah,
I
okay.
do definitely
It's a
agree
good
that
view.
a lot of stars need their pricing adjusted.
Yes.
Obviously, some stars need to be a bit more expensive, but some stars actually do need to be cheaper, so that we might actually have a chance of seeing them on a table at some point.
Looking at you, Gretchen Watcher.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the one of them.
spoiler alert. I took Griff Overwald to Eucalyptus Bowl with my halflings. Now to do that, I had to pay an extra 100K for him. So that is, he's 380K. And guess what? I still managed to
You still got
finish.
value.
He still managed to finish top halfling coach, even though I paid that extra 100K for him. So I do agree with you that certainly certain stars need to have their prices looked at. I completely concur. Hey, I think for me, one of the things that, having a look at what get the ref were interpreting the rumor to say, they were saying that the new box set was going to start with 12 teams in the rule book. Now, I think a lot of people have leapt to some kind of bizarre conclusion that there isn't going to be a Teams of Legend type document. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think the rumor originator is trying to claim that. But if you're going to start with 12 teams, the get the ref interpretation of that rumor is they're going to start with the original 12 teams that were released back in Blood Bowl 2016. I wouldn't like that. I think what I would like to see is them work backwards and start with the most recent 12 teams being released, because I really like what they've done with Norse. I really like what they've done with Amazons. I've liked the Corn modification. I've liked, what they've done with the Necromantic Horror team. I think you start with those more recent teams that have been already modified the way that Blood Bowl 2020's modified them, and work backwards. So that would make a really interesting 12 teams to start with. You've got gnomes in your first 12, and then they can take their time with the teams that really need some further revision. We all know goblins need some serious work somewhere. And I think teams like Elven Union and Skaven and Dwarves that never had a spike journal can get their own spike journal in due time. So that's what I'd like to see come to pass if the rumor's true. What about you, Wilts? Is there something you'd like to see happen in the new edition?
I don't really have a lot of wish listing as far as things I want to be different in the new edition. The biggest thing I would like is some kind of better structure and layout for the way the rule book's actually presented. Obviously, that's asking a lot, but all these graphic design people seem to fall in love with their fanciness. But I'd just like to have a very easy, open structure to the rulebook that's not flicking backwards and forwards between six different pages to find what you're looking for. To make it a bit more accessible for people learning the game and people that want to focus on playing the game rather than reading about it. Just to make it that little bit easier.
Yeah, I think they attempted to have some clear structure in the 2020. Like the 2020 rules are significantly shifted in their structure from 2016. I think they did try to
Certainly.
do, put some keywords in, have some key definitions, structure the rules by, what is occurring or what it is that they're explaining. So what are the different Blood Bowl actions are all kind of grouped together. Remember way back in third edition, there was kind of the basic rules, and then there was the advanced rules. And while the idea of that was there was some kind of a simplified version of Blood Bowl that beginners could learn, nobody really played with those rules to speak of. So it didn't make a lot of sense to group the rules that way. I think Blood Bowl 2020 attempted to do what you're thinking, what you're saying, but I think there was definitely a little work
There's still
required.
definitely room for improvement there.
100%.
And even with the way the rules are written for different skills can be cleaned up and standardized. So like the timings of skills when you're allowed to use them and that sort of thing can definitely be cleaned up and clarified. For example, why is Pro as a skill allowed to be used during a player's activation on a blitz, but the dodge skill and the block skill are not? What's going on?
What consistency in rulings? Now come now.
Yeah, consistency in timing, application, and ability to use skills and rules? No,
Yeah.
never happened.
Well, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. I think we'd all love that. And I hope the rumor is saying what I'm interpreting it as saying is the rules are going to be, a cleanup and modification rather than a complete rewrite like 2020 was in many ways.
For sure.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Let's jump
100%.
to our second introductory question. Blood Bowl has many different elements to it. The fantasy football hobby has a whole bunch of different um, components. And I know there are coaches out there who are only interested in some of those components of the hobby. So, for example, I know of several people in the Blood Bowl community in Queensland who really, for them, it's about collecting the models and painting them. They're not really that interested in actually playing the game. They just like collecting and painting. So collecting and painting are two parts of the hobby. There's other people I know who are the opposite of that, who for them, painting a team is probably a worse fate than jail time, and they would rather just play the game. They'd happily pay someone to paint the models for them. They don't have any interest whatsoever in miniature painting. So yeah, of all the different elements that apply to Blood Bowl, what's the one part of fantasy football, the hobby that is, that you like the least? Let's start with Wills.
So for me, collecting the models is one of my primary enjoyment avenues for Blood Bowl. I like collecting the models, putting them together. While I take a lot of pride in painting my own models, sometimes painting does feel like a chore more than an actual enjoyable part of the hobby. So for me, that's probably where I would land for this question. Um, like, there's plenty of people out there love painting, and painting itself is the joy of the hobby. And good on those people. I wish I could be more like that. But some of the new models I've painted recently, like the the models we sent over to to North America for our Slan friends over there. That was actually a lot of fun to put together and sit down in one session and do it. So there's definitely times when I have had fun painting, but overall, it's not something I look forward to. It's not something that gives me a lot of joy at the end of the day, but the end result of it definitely brings me a lot of joy. So it's sort of a bit of a love-hate relationship there for me.
What about you,
Yeah,
Millsy?
yeah. I think the part of the hobby I like the least is losing. No. Um, no, I love all aspects of the hobby. I love collecting. I love coming up with ideas and concepts for a team of what I could do, and then and finding the miniatures and modeling and painting. Um, Probably my least favorite part of the hobby is actually to do with tournaments. When it comes to, this is going to be controversial, but I need to get it out there. When it comes to stunty teams, now most tournaments they'll offer extra TV or extra star player access or extra skills for for the stunty teams in tournaments, and that should by rights put them kind of on equal level playing field with the rest of the teams. I have no problem with that. What I then have a problem with is why do they get their own tournament, their own trophy, like a Stunty Cup? I can. It seems sort of like, when you're at school and everyone gets a prize and for participating and so on. It's like either let stunties play with the same TV as everyone else and then reward the best one, or if you're going to make them all even, go do away with the Stunty Cup. Having said that, I'm probably going to try for a Stunty Cup myself next year, but I just that's the part of the hobby I like the least, or I have the most confliction with. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
yeah. I think obviously there's advantage in trying to shoot for what is kind of been coined by other podcasts, all teams viable, where you want it doesn't matter which team you're taking, you've got a shot at the title. And I think there's some advantage to that. I really do. I really like it. But I actually agree with Millsy. I actually think if you're going to give extra team value or team costs to the team, if you're playing a stunty, and additional skills on top of that, you do run the risk that you potentially give the stunties enough of an edge that they can win the entire tournament. And there are examples of stunty teams doing exactly that and winning the whole darn thing. And then what is the point of having a stunty cup and a championship or a tournament trophy if it's going to be won by a stunty team? I mean, the whole origin of the stunty cup was really a prize for to encourage people to take a stunty, knowing they had the same chance as a snowball in hell of winning the thing. That was the original idea. So I do think people need to revisit the whole stunty cup idea. And if you are genuinely trying to shoot for your tournament to make all teams viable, I think the Stunty Cup may be redundant, and I think some tournament organisers are actually coming to the same conclusion you're proposing, Millsy.
Well, just refresh my memory though. When's was the last major tournament you heard about where a stunty team did win the whole championship?
Well, I was actually listening to.
Because I'm sure it has happened. I'm not familiar with enough of them myself.
Well,
No,
Canes Toad
I was
Cup this
actually
year,
listening
Canes
to.
Toad Cup, Canes Toad Cup this year,
Yep,
Halflings came third. Brisbane
Yeah.
City Bash 2024, Ogres came second, runner up. That's Queensland alone.
Yeah.
yep, and I was listening to Get the Ref podcast today. They were talking about a big tournament they have there, and they have a really good, I don't know, players pack for it. But it's been a number of years since a stunty didn't win, and the best placed non-stunty team was like sixth or seventh or something in their particular tournament. So it was obviously aimed at stunties doing very well, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
there are
that
tournaments out there when that happens.
that particular tournament is very much leaning towards stunties. I think is that the golden sausage you're listening about?
It it was the golden sausage, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that is a kind of a very pro stunty tournament, and there are several tournaments around the world that are designed that way. Another one is the Condiment Cup in the UK. You can take a non-stunty team to it, but you're the outsider looking to upset rather than the other way around.
So they've done away with the Stunty Cup by having an all Stunties tournament that you're allowed to shoe in a non-Stunty team to. They just don't get
Yeah,
special treatment.
yeah, it's kind of a little
In
bit of a
effect, yeah.
shoehorn with the NAF rules. So the idea is that the NAF, you won't approve you as an NAF tournament in the Blood Bowl 2020 meta if you ban people from taking certain teams. So what they do is they just make all the tier one and potentially tier two and lower teams, very, very difficult to play, just to give the stunties basically a free run. So yeah, they're a kind of an edge case, I think. I think what we're talking about though is where there's enough incentives to the stunties that they genuinely can have a tilt at the title. I don't think Eucalyptus Bowl is that far away from being an all teams viable rule set. And we heard James, the organizer, actually genuinely mulling that over at the prize giving, saying, well, maybe if stunties are going to take megastars, we need to consider them not being eligible for the Stunty Cup. And I think that's a valid kind of rumination to have, and just dialogue and discussion for the community to engage with. So I agree with Millsy in that sense.
Well, we have also seen tournaments where taking a megastar disallows you access to the Stunty Cup trophy. So it has to be a Stunty team without a megastar to qualify.
Yeah, and see, that's a valid way to kind of break it down. If there's enough coaches taking that path to warrant a trophy.
And not just someone turning up for a participation trophy because they're the only Stunty team that turned up.
Well, that's it. I mean, for a couple of tournaments I ran, star players were not available at all, like just no star players, full stop. At that point, you're not running an all teams viable tournament because stunties will not compete with the others without that kind of incentive.
Or without
really,
some incredible dice rolling.
yeah, it's just, yeah, that's right. It's just not an all teams viable tournament. You're dicing ridiculously uphill to play on a level playing field. So, I think there's a recognition that it's the star player access that was raised by Millsy that is helping see those stunties get a massive leg up. I don't deny that at all. I think that's absolutely true. I want to circle around though and talk about the part of the fantasy football hobby that I like the least. And it's something relatively new in Blood Bowl, and it is assembling miniatures. Right. So, in Blood Bowl, there's been miniatures that require assembly way back since second edition, right? Second edition, there were some multi-part models, particularly that your big guy model sometimes came in two parts. So there were a couple of parts. Third edition, there was a few models that were multi-part. Like Head Splitter, for example, or Morgan Thorpe had three parts, I think, from memory. All fine, no problem, no issue. Well, when we get to current edition, we start seeing more and more components required per model, like the gnomes, right? They're tiny little things, right? They're little. Well, those gnomes are at least 4 parts, and I'm not joking. How many parts is the illusionist, Millsy? You assembled yours more recently than mine. How many parts was it to assemble
It was either 8 or 9 parts for a gnome illusionist, and like that's ridiculous for a model that size.
Yeah. And there's no real, I can't see any massive advantage. I mean, why are GW putting that many pieces to a modern miniature that's that size? I mean, if they're trying to save plastic, I mean, how little of plastic are we talking here before it's worth doing? Like, I don't really see the value in it. I mean, obviously, if it's a multi-part model that allows you to pose the model in a variety of different ways, I'm all for it. Like, I love it. I love the idea of a multi-pose model where you can have, an arm up or an arm down, or, be striking or be defending, that kind of thing. Sure, great. But I mean, we're getting from the sublime to the ridiculous here. I mean, the latest is Maple Highgrove. I'm not joking. That kit, Maple Highgrove, has 27 components. I'm not joking, 27. I mean, to be honest,
That's ridiculous.
Like I know Lego kits that have less parts than that, and they clip together, right? There's no gluing at all required, right? Maple Highgrove is resin, right? Like honestly, to goodness, like it's just, I think we've gone from something that was fairly simple, where the orcs and the humans in the box set in 2016 were push fit models that had 2 parts, pushed together, done. From there, they've got more and more multi parts. I think they've gone too far. I think they've gone, that the assembly, I don't mind a little bit of assembly, as I said, particularly if it means they're multi-pose, but I think it's gone too far. I think it's got to come back the other way, surely. I just think it's
I
painful. It's annoying. It's a waste of time.
I definitely agree with the sentiment that it's going a bit too far, but in my personal opinion, the push fit models actually require more time in assembly than a standard model because in my opinion, you're actually better off clipping off the tabs that lock together without glue to make them actually fit flush and have their armor panels actually joined together instead of leaving horrible gaps everywhere. But
Yeah, and look, I'm
that's
not
a whole
I'm not
different argument.
advocating. Yeah, I'm not arguing we go back to push fit. But what I am saying is, we've gone through a process where the models have got more and more parts, more and more parts, more and more parts, and not that add any value in that you can reposition them. Like attaching a gnome face to a gnome body where the beard is half there and half not, and so you've got to fit it together in a particular way doesn't add any additional way you can arrange the model to it at all. And I just don't see the value in it. I really think it's gone too far to some strange place where I think they're just trying to save a little bit of plastic. And let's be honest, the sprue
Yeah.
itself is going to have more plastic on it than the models that you're clipping from it.
And every piece that you have to glue on has its own separate little armature coming off the sprue to connect to that piece. So I loved, back in the day, the GW multi-part kits where you would get two different leg poses and then a body and then the arms, and you could actually position them and twist them around. You could have a head looking up or looking towards the head where the hand was pointing and so on. But none of the models we have now are kind of, you can't position them in any different way. They all have to fit onto that same
At
position,
least
so
not
they're not really
easily.
saving any. No, well, without modification. Whereas, before you just glued the torso onto the top of the legs, and you could have that twisted if you wanted to, and then glue the arms one up, one down, or both up. And now they're all still very monopose, but yeah, I'm not sure why they went that way, and hopefully they do change.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Let's
there's
move on.
manufacturing reasons involved, but I don't know that any of us have enough experience to discuss that intelligently.
Yes, this is true.
It is actually my undergraduate degree, but sure, let's move on.
I'll go right ahead
Nah. I don't want to bore our listeners. Hey, I wanted to just give another shout out to somebody we had on Down Underworld Business a couple of episodes ago. We had Sven Drakenspear on, and he helpfully pointed out that one of the UK podcasters, Stubacker, he's on a couple of podcasts, in fact, one of which is Blood Bowl Tavern. He wanted to let us know. Yeah, he pointed out that there was some data that came out of Blood Bowl 3. Blood Bowl 3 has a particular mode or particular style of play where you can register a team in what's called arena mode. Now, arena mode effectively runs like a resurrection tournament where you set up a team list with skills that you can choose in advance, and then you play in this arena for 20 games. But apparently, you can only lose twice before you get knocked out. And that arena mode means that there are literally thousands of games going on in effectively a tournament under a very specific set of rules. Now, that was fantastic and really interesting to look at what the difference means when the tournament rules shift slightly, because they did between a couple of the different seasons of Blood Bowl 3. But it also tweaked with me, well, hang on a minute. Blood Bowl 3 tracks everything, right? It tracks KOs, it tracks fouls, it tracks casualties. And I thought, you know what? This is a really good opportunity for us to have a really good look at one of the statistics that we don't get a really good look at, because NAF tournaments are not required to upload their casualty data. You don't actually need to record the casualties in the NAF database. Some tournaments do, but some tournaments don't. So, to be pure for the data, you don't want to have some kind of select data where only certain tournaments are factoring in. So I actually grabbed 3 sets of data to do with casualty statistics and looked at the triangulation of data to have a look. The 3 sets of data I grabbed are from Fumble. So there was some great casualty data out of Fumble. Now, Fumble is a bit of a sandbox kind of arrangement where people are developing their teams over time. So it was a good look at what happens in a league setting or league style setting with casualties. Then the other two bits of data is I could look at the tournaments that the NAF does have casualty statistics for. So I had a look at that. And of course, then I had a look at the data out of arena mode, and a bit of a shout out to the people who assisted with that. There was somebody who reached out who I believe actually works for Blood Bowl 3, works for Nacon, the company, and actually produced that a little tool to help look at the casualty data that gets updated daily, which was really nice. Yeah, some guys brought me the casualty data from Fumble, and Mike Davies, of course, does the data crunching for the NAF. So just shout out to all those guys. Yeah, got to have a look at the casualty data, and you know what the number one finding I discovered was, Wilson Bilsey?
Mm-hmm. What's that?
That the casualty data
Go
does
on.
exactly what you think it's going to do. That basically, if you've got a brain and you can think about it, you can work it out.
Well, what
So,
about for those of us that don't have a brain? Can you explain it for
well,
us?
here's the thing, right?
Or that don't use them.
Or that don't use them.
Which team is going to suffer the most casualties? Which team is going to suffer the most casualties? Well, the obvious way to answer that question is which team has the lowest armor, right? Which team has the lowest armor value?
It's not
Which
like
team is that? Yeah. So there you go. That's the team that suffers the most casualties, right? Which team is going to cause the most casualties? Well, which team has
well,
the
that's in a
most
bit more
mighty blow?
contention.
Which team has the most mighty blow? It's
Depends on how
ogres.
many skills you're allowed to take.
It's ogres, right? So ogres also end up with the most casualties caused. So a bunch of the stuff that came out of the data is exactly what you'd expect, right? It actually just confirmed everything that we thought about. But there were some really interesting surprises, right? So, while, okay, most injured, most brutal teams pretty much ran along the lines that we expected, there were some really interesting things that weren't expected. So, for example, which team do you think causes the least casualties?
Have to be some kind of an elf team, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's actually Elven Union. Now, some of the data also said High Elves were in the same category, but I thought that was really interesting. But also, Elven Union had another dubious credit to their name, which was the team with the worst casualty differential. That is, injuries suffered to injuries caused, right? So that is, they suffered a lot and didn't cause very many themselves. Ogres, interestingly, are kind of in a different spectrum in that they cause lots of casualties and suffer lots of casualties, which again is fairly straightforward to think about. They've got a bunch of Noblars running
I don't think it's the ogres that are getting casualty there.
around. No, it's not. No, it's not. But yeah, I thought there was some interesting things. One of the other interesting things the data helped me understand is that in tournaments, ogres are actually orcs are not that actually effective at casualties. Now they're in the mix. They're in the mix with a bunch of 4 or 5 other teams that cause a bunch of casualties, but they're not the leader. Right, they're in the hunt with Khorne teams and Nurgle teams and shambling undead teams, but well and truly behind dwarves. Dwarves are actually the leader at tournament casualty differential, and again that makes perfect sense because they've got thick skull, they've got high armor, so they don't get injured themselves, and their whole role in the game is to basically smash people. That's how they win their games and grind out a 2-1 win. But interestingly, orcs do significantly better over time, right? Like in the Fumble data, orcs really rise up. And I think that's because they've got so much access to strength skills, right? They can then pick up Mighty Blow. They can then pick up guards for bigger blocks. So, I think access to strength skills over time makes orcs become more effective at casualty differential, having higher casualties and suffering less themselves. Yeah, so anyway, I just thought that was quite interesting that orcs improve over time, whereas a lot of the other teams, including surprising ones like Khorne and Nurgle that you'd think would be slow to get going, seem to have a relatively stable casualty differential between tournaments and the league. Yeah, so here you go. Here's the question for you. Which team in Blood Bowl do you think blocks the most?
Well, it'd have to be either Dwarf or Tomb Kings.
Oh, you've been looking at my answers. You're
We've
100%
had
right.
this conversation before, Babs.
We have, but
We've
surprisingly,
already talked about this.
surprisingly, I would have thought it would have been corn, right? I would have thought corn would be the winner because of all their frenzy. They get twice as many blocks as
And
everybody else.
Well, they get twice as
that
many
was the
blocks per
exact answer I
action,
gave you
but how
last
many
time.
times do they actually use them?
Well, that's it. And the point is, I think that good corn coaches don't block all the time. That it's the process of not blocking that actually helps them out.
Yeah, but that's good corn coaches. What about fun?
That's another category. But yeah, so yeah, Tomb Kings and Dwarf are top, then Orcs, then Nurgle, then Shambling Undead, and Khorne are actually the midpoint. There's actually about half the teams above them.
Yeah, that was surprising when you first told me that one. I just I would have thought, yeah, frenzy, frenzy, frenzy. Well, there's double blocks. You're going to be throwing twice as many. But like you said, the good corn coaches are going to be looking at those frenzy traps and doing movement rather than blocking.
Yeah, so anyway, it was really good to have a bit of a deep dive into casualty data because casualty data has not been something that's got a lot of airtime. As I said, I think it's mainly been because not all tournaments have recorded their casualty data into the NAF database.
In
But
fairness
yeah,
to the NAF, though, also not every tournament counts casualties the same way.
that's
So
right.
there's definitely a lot of room for interpretation and how valuable would the data actually be in that case?
Yeah, but there's interesting stats you can pull out because some of the data gives us information like how many fouls per game does Snotlings do? You know, in a tournament setting, you can actually look
If
at
it's my
those
snotlings, it's nowhere near enough. But anyway,
So I just want to say, if there's anybody who does want to get their hands on this really high quality data, which, as I said, I didn't develop myself, I didn't extract myself, I um, utilized the kind volunteering from other members of the community. If you want to have a look at it, we'll put that data up in our Facebook group. So Down Underworld Denizens is a Facebook group. Look us up. You don't have to use Facebook for any other purpose other than just connecting with us. We don't commend it to you as a social media tool, other than the fact it's relatively the status quo, the norm, the industry standard, so to speak, of us volunteer podcasters. So that's why we have a Facebook group as our main port of call. Yeah, jump on there, have a look, or if you don't want to use Facebook, message us by maybe emailing us at downunderworlddenizens@gmail.com. Yeah.
I miss
So
message boards.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there is
Showing
still a
my age there a bit.
well, I actually think there's still a place for it.
Well, I was going to say, well, let's move on from that and then move into our four spheres. We always try and talk about most episodes, and I know we probably didn't finish them off quite so well last time. So let's look at locally here in Central Queensland what's been going on. After our last episode, we had the second running of the Bundy Cup. That was won by Babs himself. So well done to Babs. I came second in that one. And I think it
So
was
always the
Stewie that came
bridesmaid there,
third.
Millsy?
No. I won the first one. And I did cop a bit of flack for winning my own tournament. So I actually came up with this plan. What I'll do is I'll use the last place team in the tournament and I'll run them at the next one. So I
Ooh.
chose Imperial Nobility, who came last in the last tournament, and I came second with them. I loving that fend and the stand firm, especially on a
Oh.
narrower pitch of beach bowl, just really worked well.
Hey, and Millsy, tell us about your surprise when I said I was taking Shambling Undead. Fill us in on that little journey.
My surprise, you'll have to. Oh, it's going back a while now.
Yeah,
Um,
because traditionally, in your GW style settings, people wouldn't think Shambling Undead would be that competitive, but Beach Bowl is a different kettle of fish. It's not the same as GW sevens. You have a line of scrimmage, and
uh,
Shambling Undead brings some serious weight to that.
yeah, some strength five to the front line always helps.
Yeah, well, remember all your positionals are halved, right? So you can only bring one mummy, but still, and you've still got, one decent blitzer type in the white. You're still able to bring two ghouls, which have a decent amount of movement. It's a good blend. It's a good blend. The one downside I didn't twig is that regeneration didn't work. I didn't know that until the day.
Oh, because everything was a KO.
It was in the rules pack. Yeah, in Beach Bowl they have a minor KO, which is a 3+ to return, and a major KO, which is a 5+ to return. And the major KOs count towards a casualty as for tournament sake. But yeah, because there's no actual casualty, you can't actually roll for regen.
Oh no.
Yeah, that which is not what I was thinking would be the case. Anyway, doesn't matter. I rolled with it.
Yeah, we did.
Read the friendly
And
manual next time, Babs.
I have for Bundy Cup 3, which is coming up on the 23rd of August. I have actually put that in bold now. So, coaches, if they choose to read the rules pack, might be able to see that, Babs.
Yeah, I do have to confess the amount of time I spent designing my roster was not the normal amount of time I spend at a tournament roster.
So you
Look,
overachieved with
it's
Shambling Undead. Is your next challenge to take Tomb Kings?
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
moving on from local Queensland. We've in the state of Queensland, we've had a few big tournaments or a few big events, and there was one that took place up in Cairns. Wilts, would you like to tell us about that one?
It was pretty good. Stewie and I road tripped up to Cairns for a good mates weekend, and may have overdone it slightly on the Friday night, but that's a whole different story. What happens on tour
But in our case, we're going to get a little sneak peek into bits of that
stays on
trip.
tour. But we were blowing the dust off the cobwebs Saturday morning and had a good time. Stewie actually started off his event the best I've ever seen him, with 2 wins and a draw on day one, and which was the exact same score I had, but his tiebreakers were better than mine. So I managed to submarine day two and actually get 2 wins against teams that were self-destructing in front of me, and I was just the beneficiary that topped the table on that one.
Mm.
So top of
Yeah,
the
I thought,
table, that's King of the North 2 years in a row.
Well, there's other events in the north as well. I'll have to wait and see if I can get to Townsville as well, but going back to back's definitely a thrilling and fun achievement for that one.
Well,
and
I'm
and
presuming you're going to be going back for number 3 for
I
next year when it's on.
I will have to make sure I can be there 100%. The real question is
Now,
going to be, is it the same team three years in a row, or do I take something else next year?
well, I do want to fill you on a little bit of information. Whilst we were down at Uke Bowl last weekend, a certain Ken Dunford said he will move hell and high water to get there so that you do not get 3 in a row. So expect Ken Dunford's Orcs at Fumble in the Jungle next year.
well, all
Well,
humans. He was playing.
Ken
He was playing
wasn't playing
humans at
his Orcs at
Feudball.
Uke Bowl, so what was going on there?
Yes, he played humans. I played
Ah,
against him.
so yeah, well done to Wilt. That's 2 in a row taking up Fumble in the Jungle, and like you said, Stewie was right up there, but unfortunately had a loss in his last game. He said from one mistake that he's kicking himself for now, but still finished a respectable 8th. So well
And he was
done.
playing second
Uh,
place, and so that's definitely nothing to be upset about.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's his best tournament performance to date. I think 8th spot's his best ever tournament finish.
oh
And
well, he
just
did.
also give the guys at Fumble a bit more hype. There were 16 draws across the weekend, and 5 of them in the top 8 coaches had multiple draws. So just to give the guys some credit where credit's due, the quality of competition up there was incredible, and as good as anything we've seen in the southeast corner for sure.
Yeah, we should say that. Just because it's a smaller tournament doesn't mean there's lesser players. And we all discovered last year when we went up for the first round that yeah, there's some really good competitors up there. Many of whom actually sort of travelled to other events in Queensland. But yeah, there are some really strong players up there. So a first place for you and an 8th for Stewie is really well commended.
And just a
I,
shout
I
out,
did miss having the red frogs to chew on halfway through the tournament, though.
Hey,
That
you know
frog's
who came runner
alive.
up? You know who came runner up at Fumble in the
It was
Jungle
Tats.
2025? It was none other than our friend Chris Tattersall himself.
Yeah, not only can he produce perfect
And
dice.
Tats actually put up an extra set of dice for the tournament champion as well. So I've got an extra set of Tats's great sharp dice. So I actually think I need to paint a team to match the colours of these ones. So we'll see what happens with that.
Paint some
Yeah,
goblins.
but I think it's a great tournament. I think it's a fantastic event. I think Luke Threlfall does a brilliant job at
Oh,
Fumble in
he's
the
brilliant.
Jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you at all able to get up to Cairns, it's the perfect time of year to visit Cairns. Turn it into a family holiday. Get up there. Get there for 2026. That's all I can say.
Yeah, Luke did say that it was probably the worst weather they've ever had. It was a chilly 19 degrees centigrade, which is perfect for anywhere else.
Yeah, that chilly night breeze made it feel like it was 18, I'm sure. Hey everyone, this is Wilts from Down Under Wild Denizens. I'm here with Stewie. We're trucking our way north up to sunny Cairns for Fumble in the Jungle 2. What's your thoughts on the trip so far, Stewie?
Yeah, apart from myself forgetting my iPad and leaving it at work, and can't be a road trip without me forgetting something, I guess. So it's been a pretty good trip up the highway. We've only had one little crazy driver with a truck with the classic, the poly tank.
Oh yeah, with his poly tank on the back,
That's it. It was waffling around like a
wobbling around in the
like
wind.
a waffle on the back of the truck. But anyway, no, it's been a great trip. Plenty of conversation, Blood Bowl related, and looking forward to getting to Cairns and rolling some dice.
In the meantime, though, we had a nice stop at the Big Mango at Bowen. Had some nice mango ice cream, and we're just looking for victuals for tonight to tide us over for the road trip tomorrow.
And of course, the Big Mango, iconic, Bowen. What else could you say? Standing there, having an ice cream, looking out, got the ocean there in the background, beautiful water. Couldn't see any sharks, but we weren't getting that close either.
Nice temperatures for a beautiful June afternoon.
So tonight, a couple of beers, trek the rest of the way up to Cairns tomorrow, catch up with the rest of the crew up there. FYI, Hemingway's on Saturday night. That'll be another thing to look forward to as well.
Absolutely, mate. We'll catch you again tomorrow.
If you're wondering what these little interspersements are about, they're about us warming you up to a topic we're going to talk about in episode 16.
Hey, listen, we're still talking about Queensland. There's actually something going on, I believe, this weekend. Do you know any more about that, Babs?
Yeah, I'm planning to try and sneak in a visit. It's bit of an organic process, but there's been a bit of a gauntlet throwdown, a bit of a challenge thrown down. That the various different leagues in the southeast corner of Queensland have decided to run a little best of the best tournament, where not really an official NAF thing, but they want to get the winners and runners up of their leagues to get together and duke it out in a one-day event. That to just to remind them that the real challenge for which league is the superior league in Queensland will be coming in 2026 with the Tournament of Champions All Stars. So I am well and truly underway planning for that event. I just want to remind them that each league around Queensland needs their own qualification process on which three coaches they will send as their champions to be the three coach team that they need to compete at Tournament of Champions. So yeah, I plan to drop in. I still want to see which of the southeast leagues around Queensland, Gold Coast, Sunny Coast is going to come out triumphant.
Yeah, brilliant. Uh, and I've just alluded to it when we were talking about the King of the North there, but Babs and I have just come away from Eucalyptus Bowl. So we're moving out of Queensland now, going interstate. So Eucalyptus Bowl, for those people that don't know, is the one of the 5 world majors. It's held in Sydney. This year we had 148 coaches. So myself, Babs, Stewie, and Wanna all travelled down to that through various different means. Babs, how did you go in Uke Bowl?
Mate, I achieved my core goal. I'm so pumped. But I tell you, but on the Saturday night, I was kicking myself. I was absolutely kicking myself. I made a significant blunder that I need to make sure I never do again in tournament play. I'm an elf coach at heart, right? I'm used to playing elves. I'm used to playing that kind of play style. And so I'm used to having 11 or at most 12 players. I'm not used to having 13, 14 players running around. And so I made the very unfortunate error of playing a halfling team with Griff overlord on it and setting up 12 players for one of my drives. And my opponent, he knew what I'd done, and he said, "Thank you very much. See you later, Griff."
Ken
And that
Dunford
was
getting
none
another
other
shout
than
out on the podcast.
there's none other than get. Hey, look, I actually hats off to Ken. You know, he handled it well, and you know, it's absolutely within his rights. It's written in black and white in the rules, and I think I need to learn that lesson for Austal State champs. I need to make sure I don't make that mistake with my vampires. So, yeah,
The burned hand teaches best.
that's it. That's exactly right. So, you know, fair game. Mind you, I was kicking myself for multiple hours. I was in a bit of a funk after doing it. There were a variety of factors that I think helped me make that mistake in the first place. I think I was finding the time clock quite tight, and that's on me. I also think I was a bit out of a bit rattled because of what had occurred in the first half. But yeah, I just wanted to say I had a brilliant Euclid spell. I really enjoyed it. All six of my opponents I had a great game against, including Ken, and I had some top-notch opponents. Actually, my first four games, all four of my first four opponents were the highest caliber of coach. I don't think I could have asked of a stronger strength of schedule in those first four games. Fortunately, my game five and my game six, I managed to get 3-0 and 2-0 results, but still lovely opponents. I really enjoyed them, and I'm delighted to say that other than Griff being sent off through my own stupidity, Griff managed to stick around for every single one of my games. So I'm pretty pumped about my defensive play that protected Griff as well as I could. How about you? How about you,
Down,
Milsey?
Mr. President.
Tell us about your Euclid just bowl.
I had one for the ages, I think. I took humans because I'm going to be taking those to Greenstone Cup. And I took the Flagstaff Jailbirds, which we're going to hear a little bit later on in this episode from the Feudball novel. And I started off with a 3-2 win over some Lizardmen. Then I had a 4-1 loss against Elven Union. It was just doing elf stuff, and he just dodged everywhere on a 2. I almost had a chance of getting it back to 3-2 with all I had to do was pick the ball up. 3 turns in a row, burnt a reroll, picking the ball up in the open. On the last time, I popped the ball into 3 tackle zones, which the elf just walked into, picked it up, and went in for a glory 4-1 win.
So you got Millsy.
I got Millsy big time. So my third game, went up against Josh Titherley, which is an old QNK from the old QNK BBL. He was running Black Orcs. I got the 2-1 win over him. Josh ended up as the number 1 ranked Black Orc coach in the tournament, so that was a pretty big win getting over that one. Went into day 2, kind of a little bit fretting, going, I'm up on these top tables, and the higher up you are, the harder your games are. And I had my first game on the Sunday was a 2-1 win against Necro. Then I had a 1-1 draw against Nobility. And then for my final round, I had to face last year's champion, Cullen Russell. And he was playing Orcs. And I got the 1-0 win over him. It was just I had to play my A game the entire time. There was no let off. Every roll was critical, and just managed to get it. So I ended up with a record of 4-1-1. I finished 11th, and I was the highest ranked human coach.
Well done.
Done well, mate.
Yes, I managed to back that up, and I also managed to get best halfling coach.
You did, yes. So, all the Down Underworld Denizens commentators are making their mark. So hopefully, when we go to ASC and the Greenstone, they look out for us Queenslanders.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw one social media chat where the Victorians are worried about us at Ausval State Champs. They saw that Kiltane came runner up, and there was quite a few. I think there were four finishers, including yourself, Millsy, in the top 20. I think four Queenslanders in the top 20.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think I saw that. I saw that same post, and someone had half-heartedly said, "Oh, should we be banning the New Zealanders from Big V?" And the next post up was, "No, I think we should be worried about the Queenslanders instead." So I'm so stoked for that comment, just to go, you know what, we are a state that needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. They need to be worried. Hey, and look, I just wanted to say, once again, I had some great games, and I just want to speak into this. Around the traps globally, I hear this about this Blood Bowl talk that there is no dice. There's no dice in Blood Bowl at all. It all averages out in the end, and you just need to play better Blood Bowl regardless of the dice. And I just want to say that's nonsense. Like, I had a number of games that could have very easily gone the other way, and it came down to dice, right? So my round two opponent against Stephen Mullaney, I completely pulled that one out of my rear end, I think. Um, you know, two of my touchdowns were just dice roll after dice roll, and they all just worked. I
Hey,
literally
just roll
turn
sixes.
A.
It's an easy game,
Well,
bro.
that's it. Yeah, first half, right? He had successfully defended very, very well, and prevented me from being able to run in and score. So what do? Throw a halfling, run Griff out, hand off the ball to the thrown halfling, who then scoots in to score. Like, there was about 8 dice rolls required for that to happen, and I pulled it off. And then again, right towards the end of the game, I managed to chain push Griff into a situation where I needed to pass to him in 2 tackle zones. But of course, Griff does Griff things, and I pulled it off. Like, one dice roll failing, and it would have been a completely different result in that game. In my game four against amazing Victorian, probably my favourite game of the tournament, Baz Machine, I had managed to get a runaway with Griff. I managed to recover the ball after being successfully hit by a thrown halfling that Baz threw at me, because it was a halfling versus halfling game. But I managed to recover, pick up the ball, and I just managed to outflank him, run away with the ball with Griff. What does he do? Throw a halfling catcher at me who needs 2 dice uphill. He needs double power to knock Griff over. Right? This is to stop me from winning the game. What does he do? 2 dice uphill, 1 in 36 chance, double power. What does he then do? Injure Griff. Right? If either of those things hadn't happened, I would have been in. But there you go, there's a draw.
Uh,
So, a number of my games, my game one against Touchy, Vampires versus Halflings, that was an incredibly close game that came down to dice rolls. I just don't think you can say there is no dice. You've got to realize that games will be won or lost on certain dice rolls, either happening or not happening.
Yeah, this reminds me. I was listening to Get the Ref earlier today, and this fantastic quote that they had in there was, "Sometimes you've got to be lucky to be good, but then sometimes you've got to be good to be lucky." And it
Absolutely.
really struck with me. Really struck with me. And it's like I've dissected my games over and over and thinking, did I luck into that? Did I do this? Did I do that? And I kind of put myself in that I was good to be lucky situation. And yeah, I was lucky they might have had a fail here or there, but it was the positioning that I had done that had caused them to re-roll early on and waste their re-roll. So sometimes, you've got to play really good to get lucky on the other end of it. So it really struck me that quote. So I'm going to be using that quite a lot from now on. So if you want to hear it again, it's you got it. Sometimes you've got to be lucky to be good, and sometimes you've got to be good to be lucky.
And on that subject, you've definitely agree with that, where the good coaches will put themselves in a position to take the best advantage of any luck that does come their way. Um, and an average coach, if they get a little bit of luck, might not actually be in the best position to take the fullest advantage of it. So
That's it.
100%, it's a dice game. Dice can happen. You can't change that. But it is 100% around skill, risk management, and skill in positioning. So you can minimize or attempt to minimize how much luck can go against you. but getting the most out of the luck that does come your way is a skill that not everyone learns, or not everyone can execute to the fullest.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, 100%.
Risk mitigation, making sure that if it does fail, that the effect is as small as you can make it to be. So not doing the really grandiose play straight up, but doing the things that you can guarantee first. We all know
Not blocking
stand
an
up your
ogre with a
players
skeleton
first.
as the first move of your turn.
Look, that's it. Even experienced coaches forget to stand players up, right? But just remembering, move players that aren't in tackle zones first. Stand up your players first. Do the things that are guaranteed first. And then you've
Count
got
11 players first.
to. Yeah, maybe that's something I need to learn. I deserved.
Hey, 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 Babs, one for each finger on each hand plus one bonus makes 11. That's good.
Again, because
Yeah.
the one thing I just wanted to throw in here is, you know, we mentioned the awesome swag at Eucalyptus Bowl, and I just forgot to mention that the block dice from Eucalyptus Bowl were provided by Tats Tabletop. So yeah, really tidy, lovely custom color scheme. You're not going to find any dice in the world the same color combo as the dice that Tats managed to source and put the custom logo on from a Eucalyptus Bowl gone by with the Aussie Pow and the koala skull.
Yeah, and not many of those skulls come up for me, so they actually rolled really well for me as well. I used them exclusively. I took some other block dice, but never ended up using them because they rolled really well. So if you've weighted them, Tats, fantastic, mate.
Let's not spread that rumor.
No, they are definitely. I definitely got some skulls, but yeah, not a
Luckily
crucial
on two
times
dice
for
and
me.
not one
So.
dice.
Is there anything else you want to say about Eucalyptus Bowl before we move off?
Well, I did say that. Well, I was just about to say that when we were at Eucalyptus Bowl, we actually caught up with a few players from a different leagues around Australia, and yeah, sort of they let us know about their leagues that they have that we hadn't known about before, and we'll go on and list those in a second. But whilst we're at it, if you want us to give your league a shout out, yeah, just jump onto that our Facebook page, let us know about it, where it's at, any details you want, and we can mention it on here. But there's a couple other ones that we found out about, Babs.
Yeah. Obviously, Eucalyptus Bowl is in Sydney. It's held at the Burwood RSL, and I just wanted to say, hey, I think James did an absolutely brilliant job. I mean, it was a massive scale up, right, from Eucalyptus Bowl in previous years. You've got double the number of coaches there, and then some. And I think he did a fantastic job. I actually think the prize ceremony at Eucalyptus Bowl this year is probably the best prize ceremony of any Blood Bowl tournament I've ever been to, bar none. So hats off to James, to Rabbit. If you haven't been to Eucalyptus Bowl, make sure you get along next year. I want to see those numbers be built upon. I want to see them even bigger next year. I think, I'd love to see Eucalyptus Bowl really, go toe to toe with Big V for numbers. And I think that, they're within cooey of achieving that. So, yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I thought the swag was high quality. I thought it was great. Yeah. Hey, I did want to say a couple of leagues in New South Wales. We did talk about in around the ground segment. We did talk about New South Wales Blood Bowl, and there's a couple of leagues that we didn't mention that deserve a shout out. One I've come across in talking about selling some stuff from our Etsy store too is the Coffs Harbour League. So yeah, there is a small in its infancy Blood Bowl League in Coffs Harbour. Shout out to those guys. They're part of a broader gaming club in Coffs Harbour, so reach out to them if you can. The Newcastle Blood Bowl League is one I was originally planning to take someone down to Eucalyptus Bowl for, but they had to pull out at the last minute for family reasons. But there is a league in Good Games Broadmeadow. They currently have 12 coaches and 2 divisions. They are looking to expand that next season. There are a number of coaches watching that season, looking to join next season. So get in on that if you're in that region. And my old stomping grounds, Wollongong. It was great to see 4 coaches from my old league who were there and a number of new coaches from Wollongong come along. And yeah, the Wollongong Blood Bowl League is about to launch. They're running a little pilot league at the moment. They're hoping to get about 26 coaches in their league. That's what I've heard from the commissioner, Samantha. So yeah, there's another league starting up outside of Sydney. So yeah, there you go. That's fantastic. Yeah, around the grounds. I don't think we're done with around the grounds. We went right around in Down Underworld Denizens and covered every state and territory that had a league that we were aware of. But we've as mentioned in previous episodes, there is a league scene in Tassie, so I think we might do an around the ground segments for Tasmania sometime coming up in a month in the second half of this year.
Yeah, fantastic.
It is Friday afternoon. We've made it into Cairns. Unfortunately, the sun was a bit oversold on our trip north. It's gotten dark very quickly. Tell us about today's trip, Stewie.
Yeah, sunny Cairns and sunny tropical North Queensland it certainly hasn't been. It has been a bit overcast, Dan, but it's been a good drive and not too many crazy people on the highway today. The Townsville guys are trailing in our wake thinking they're coming up here to steal some trophies, but we may have something to say about that.
Well, let's see if there's anything left for them to take home. Yeah, there's no guarantee of that. But definitely looking forward to the warmer overnight temperatures, regardless of sun or cloud. And we're off to sample some of the local tasty brewed beverages at least 2 different establishments this evening and a third different one tomorrow night.
Yeah, Dan, I think McAllister's out at Smithfield. I'm keen to try that. I've been recommended by a friend, so we'll see how we go. Obviously, we'll be drinking responsibly and not driving while we're drinking.
That's it. We'll see how we go tomorrow.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Blood Bowl. Let's talk about Blood Bowl globally. What's going on Blood Bowl globally? We were remiss in episode 14. An FAQ had dropped and we only mentioned it in passing. So yeah, just wanted to say what did we think of the FAQ? Is there any cues in the FAQ that should have been in there and weren't?
Yeah,
What do we think, guys?
I don't know that there was much in there that we sort of didn't already know. Obviously, there must have been a few people with some questions or some doubts, so they've sent some questions into the rules committee. But yeah, there was nothing necessarily in there that I didn't. Well, that wasn't already my interpretation of the rules. And I think going back to our rumor, I think they've just put one out just to say, yeah, we're still here, we've got it, and I'm still fingers crossed that we're getting a new edition later on in the year.
Yeah, when you look at it carefully, it does come across that way. I have to agree with you, Millsy. I think it does come across as a bit of a slapdash job. I mean, what's the global turnover at GW? Like, what's their dollar figure annually? Like, it's got to be, in the hundreds of millions of pounds, surely, right? For a company of that size, you would think that they would have at least read the document before they dropped it, right? But there's
No.
very clear evidence. They've just added the new bits to it and just chucked it out there. And things that needed updating as a result of what's happened weren't. So, for example, the Chaos Dwarves in the tierings are still listed as a Teams of Legend team,
Yeah.
even though we now have Chaos Dwarves. Another one is there's a clarification around if you receive the Iron Hard Skin skill and you have an armor value of less than 8 or 8 plus, then it's redundant and you can choose again. But Iron Hard Skin isn't only claws anymore; it applies to any armor modification. So it was a completely redundant Q&A that was still in the FAQ. And I'm also shocked that not more people in our Blood Bowl community haven't read through and seen that. I mean, there's actually old FAQs that when they've gone to drop a new question in there, they've accidentally deleted some of the answer to the FAQ from the question before. Like, it's just missing.
Someone,
So, I mean, come on, GW. Come on. At least give us the credit. If you get the intern to do the FAQ, at least make sure they
That's
do
the
their
running
job.
joke.
I mean, I am glad for the questions they answered. I do think there were some good questions in there. In particular, does Iron Hard Skin apply when somebody is fouling at Chaos Dwarf on the ground with Iron Hard Skin? I think that was a valid clarification. Even though the wording was clear, people were like, "Are you sure? Are you sure that's what it means?"
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was good. But Yeah, so I do think I'm glad for it. I'm really glad they put one out. Just wish it had been a bit more professionally done.
But also,
Hey,
if they actually streamline the rule book and make things worded better, they can cut the FAQ document down to 2 pages instead of 19.
oh, just 0 pages, just build it all
0 pages
into
would be
it.
ideal, but 1 or 2 pages for the really common questions that actually might have some ambiguity, rather than answering a question that has only one possible answer, but they ask it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, just wanted to say that the other bit of news is, of course, that the NAF, as we know, lost their president. It's pretty dramatic about the way that came about, and they've made the decision that they're not going to run an early election. They're actually going to just continue to run an election for the NAF president at its regular time slot, which is coming up anyway. I think beginning of next year will be the normal election cycle. So maybe nominations will open at the end of this year. So the NAF will just continue to do what the NAF do for the rest of this year without a president. We'll be without one. And I personally haven't noticed a difference. Have you guys?
No, well, there's literally no difference, apart from it caused quite a stir when it got mentioned on Facebook and people jumped online and so on. But since then, everything is run the same. You still go to your local NAF representative to submit your tournament. You still submit your tournament results at the end. Everything's running smoothly. And I think it's worthwhile pointing out that one of the reasons why they're not jumping on the bandwagon doing that is they really want to get the charter correct first. So, one of the things they found out after the debacle with the past president was that the charter wasn't very robust and they needed to do some work on it. So we know there's a group of people around the world that are working on that. And, it would be remiss of them to start up a new presidency without having that charter fully developed.
I think the other thing is that there's a lot of question marks in the air regarding is there going to be a new edition? Are there other things we need to look at? I think the main idea of having a president is to give a lot of direction and structure to what you want to focus on as far as an objective. And at the moment, just being in a holding pattern, which while we're waiting to see what shakes out as far as what Games Workshop's doing, I don't think it's a bad thing to just be in caretaker mode, but certainly it's not something you'd want to be long term um, to be without some kind of a leader.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, Wilt. Yeah, I think that's right. And I actually think they're doing more than just caretaker mode. I think they're just continuing to do the things that were already in play. Um, yeah, so they're continuing to roll out the plans they had already established. The priorities had already been set, and they're on about achieving it. Since the president vanished, for example, if you go to the My Coach page in the membership section of the NAF, that's had a bit of a facelift. It's easy to read. It's clearer. It's more easily navigable. So yeah, I think they've already achieved some goals, and yeah, not just sitting and waiting their time out. I think they're actually just going on about the things they wanted to go on about.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there's something else going on in the world at the moment. There's something happening over in Copenhagen, is there, Babs?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Copenhagen. I don't know. How do you pronounce it? Not sure. I'm not Danish, but I've got a collaboration going on. So, those of you who know the tournaments I've run, the Great Barrier Biff and the Great Barrier Biff 2 are tournaments I ran in 2022 and 2024, which was each is a pirate themed tournament run on a tropical island on the Great Barrier Reef. And I actually had some of the organizers of Copenhagen Pier Bowl reach out to me and say, hey, we're also running a pirate themed Blood Bowl tournament. Could we do a bit of a collab and share some resources? So I reached out to them and said, yeah, let's do that. Let's collaborate on this. And yeah, just wanted to give a bit of a promotion to the Pier Bowl. They are running their tournament on the pier in Copenhagen. It is so close to the water, you can pretty much jump from your seat where you're playing your game and be in the water. That's how close it
Depending
is.
how bad your games go.
Lunch is included, both. Yeah, well, that's it. Oh well, maybe it could be a celebration swim. I don't know, but the point is that you compete in a team of two, and it's €34 to go in the event. Lunch is included in that price tag. There are drinks you can purchase at the event, so it is a wet event. There's a bit of a pun there, I'm sure. Event-specific block dice are going to be in the goodie bag, and of course, that one of the swags one of the bits of swag they'll be giving out is the miniature that I had designed for the Great Barrier Biff. They're going to use that as part of the collaboration and give it out at their tournament. So they'll also have merch available for purchase at the Copenhagen Pier Bowl, and funds raised from that merch will go towards the same charity organisations that Feudball supports. That is the Mind organisation and the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation. So anyway, just a bit of a collab between Australia and Denmark. Yeah, if you want to know more details, try and find a guy by the name of Hargrim, and I'm sure he'll be able to connect you.
That's brilliant.
Well, hang on. Just before we move off the Copenhagen Pier Bowl, I've heard couple of the best coaches in the world are attending. So I've heard that both Kay Foge and Andy Davo are planning to be there.
So that's a reason not to attend, so you don't get your butt whooped.
No, I think it's a reason to go. Yeah, mate, at least then you can say, "Hey, I played Andy Davo." That's. I mean, who wouldn't want to? Honestly.
Oh, that would be a game and a half. You would learn so much from playing those and cafe folk as well. Like those top ranked players in the world.
Does Andy Davo need to sell merch of "I played Andy Davo and all I got with this was his silly T-shirt"?
So I'd like to
Okay.
introduce a little guest segment. It's not a full guest segment, but a little guest segment in that we want to introduce Geoff Turner, aka NAF name Vimes, to you. Now, Geoff and I go a long way back. I used to live on the Central Coast of New South Wales, and so did he. And we were in the same Blood Bowl league together for quite a few years. When Eucalyptus Bowl first started in 2005, we started commuting down to the tournament each day and back again each night. And it wasn't the only tournament we do that for. Tournaments in Sydney, that's what we do. And there's even the occasional tournament in Newcastle we would do that for. Anyway, in those journeys, one of the events, I don't remember whether it was the Eucalyptus Bowl or something else, but one of us, and I don't even remember who, won one of the Matt Forbeck novels. We actually won it as a prize. And we started reading it, and we shared it amongst ourselves and shared it around the league, as you do. And we kind of had a bit of a reaction to the Matt Forbeck books, and we talk about that in this interview coming up. But we decided that we could do better. We thought we could write better, and so we decided that we would. So the original plan was actually not for it to be a fantasy football novel set in its own universe. The original plan was for it to be an official Blood Bowl novel and have Black Library publish it. Now, that might sound like a massive stretch, and maybe we're a bit too full of ourselves, but actually, I already had an in, because remember at the time, I was working alongside Jervis Johnson with the Blood Bowl Rules Committee. So I already had kind of a bit of an in. And so I actually asked Jervis to put in a kind word, which he did. And so then I actually got a copy of our manuscript, or segments of the manuscript, to the chief editor of Black Library, whose name was Christian Dunn at the time. And he actually read the segment and actually really liked it. I actually want to read you a quote. He actually said, "The strongest impression I get from your submission is although the technical side of Blood Bowl is portrayed extremely well, it doesn't have the same feel as the first three Blood Bowl novels and reads as if it's set in a different universe from the Matt Forbeck books. That's not a problem if we're going to reboot the series, but as we don't have plans to do that currently, any submissions have to take their lead from Matt's novels." I mean, that's a quote. That's a direct quote of what he wrote in his email to me. Interestingly, it's not just a matter of him just giving us a polite response of "no, we're not interested," because he then goes on to say, "Although I can't proceed with this proposal, I would be happy to see any future Blood Bowl novel proposals from you. But I would ask that you bear in mind the above comments and get in touch with me around the middle of next year to inquire about any slots we might have in our Black Library publishing schedule for the Blood Bowl range. So basically, what they said was it's too different from the Matt Forbeck books to publish it. And well, both Geoff and I kind of thought to ourselves, well, that was kind of the point. We didn't particularly liked the approach that Matt Forbeck used for the books. We thought it was the universe itself was the comedy rather than the events that occurred within the universe and the humorous nature of normal characters, right? Like Star Wars has comedic elements in it, but it's not the things about the universe that are the comedy, if that makes sense. It's a serious universe where people can be funny. Do you get the difference? So we decided that that's the style we wanted, was kind of a universe that was a serious universe, but you could still have humorous events. And so that's what we did. We published it, we wrote it that way, and so we decided to self-publish. So we rejigged it. We rejigged it to be its own unique universe, and in fact, we rejigged the game that was being played. It's not Blood Bowl at all. It's its own game, and it's actually quite similar to AFL. So it's an oval rather than a rectangular field. And yeah, we rejigged the rules a bit, but still very much hearkening to of course our source material. And so, for example, the Norse team in the original Feudball novel become the Northicans, which are these humanoid bear-like creatures that play this fantasy game. Let's cross to Geoff now.
Okay, we are recording live at Eucalyptus Bowl nonetheless. So, listeners, if you are hearing background noise, that is because we have just finished 6 grueling rounds at New South Wales' largest Blood Bowl tournament ever. So, yeah, we're sitting here with none other than Geoff Turner, the co-author of Feudball, a fantasy football novel that we co-wrote together. How long ago is it, Geoff?
Geez, I think the planning started 20 years ago. It was oh my God, that was such a long time.
Yeah, we were inspired because we had read the Matt Forbeck novels.
Yes.
And we thought, this is not what a Blood Bowl novel should.
No. I thought it just took too long to get started. There was like 7 or 8 chapters just going into, oh, hello, I'm the main character and I'm just wandering around the countryside with Halfling. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, my personal take was I thought that Matt Forbeck tried too hard to be Terry Pratchett, and no one can be Terry Pratchett. Right? People have tried, everybody has failed.
Oh, I thought the series got worse.
Oh, yeah.
The second and third books just, no. And
let's not even talk about the 4th book.
I didn't even read the 4th book.
Tell us about the Feudball novel. Tell us, obviously we wrote it together, we got it self-published.
Yeah. Well, I remember a big note session we had coming back from Moab in 2005. We had Josh Petch and Ziggis Tillers in the back seat. I still play against Ziggis in the Central Coast League on the coast. I got the notes somewhere, but it was just a big note-taking session. We worked out all the teams, which teams we were playing, the results, everything, and settled on characters and goodness knows what else. And the planning was half the fun, really.
Yeah, and we actually produced 250 copies. Yep. So we did a print run of 250 copies, and other than the fact we ferried 20 of them over to Amsterdam for the World Cup in 2011, and they went AWOL. Or that more to the point, the people who took them just handed them out to randoms because they didn't want to take them back again, which I was a bit miffed about. But anyway, we've sold out. This is actually the copy that Millsy's organising is actually the last hardback copy we have. So Millsy, tell us what's happening.
Well, yeah, we've got the copy here. I got a copy of Babs. I actually read his copy and then said, "Have you got another one? I want to buy one." So I bought one of him, and then. I got a team from local tournament, Lee Hobbins charity sevens tournament, and part of the entry in that was getting a team. I got a human team, and I've gone, no, I have to paint them up as the Flagstaff jailbirds. So I've gone through, I've reached out to Babs and said, hey mate, you got any info? Because I've been trying to put together names and there's nicknames and so on. So he gave me the work most of you guys have gone through. So I've gone through and I've numbered them all as per how they played in the book. I've actually, a bit of a spoiler alert, I've played the Flagstaff Starbirds here at Eucalyptus Bowl, and I've just finished, I went with 4-1-1. So I beat last year's champion in the last round, so we're still waiting for results. I had to fudge it a little bit and put in a third catcher and an ogre, but they've all been named as per the team. I've shown Geoff the pictures of it before, he's seen them. So we're down here and we're going to get the last copy of the book signed, and we're going to be doing a raffle off a team.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah,
so Geoff, coming full circle, Ziggis, Josh, yourself and myself, are we in the book?
Well, I know Josh. Oh no, no. Well, Josh gets killed. Unfortunately, he was very agreeable to it, and thanks, Josh. And he gets killed in a very spectacular way. I can't remember the chapter, but it's the big tournament at the end of the series. Zig manages to make it all the way through. In fact, I think he's in book 3.
So tell us about book 2 and book 3.
Oh, book 2. Well, book 2, the team goes fully professional. The Duke starts up, builds a stadium, team plays at the stadium. Long story short, they get into the fight, they play in a big organised competition. There's a few problems along the way, especially when one of the pirate players turns up and joins the Flagstaff Jailbirds. But in the second book, I have utilised a lot of people who have played in Blood Bowl that I've known, and at least 4 of them are here today, I think. I can see one standing over there, in Dan Hutchinson. Naomi's also in the book. Paul Morris has got a character. Even Tomsey has a character, and even, where is he? Bill Murphy.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, Bill Murphy. Oh, and of course there was also Lizette Walsh, who became our star striker in the second and third books.
Babs does tell me that the two of you may have made it in there.
I just sort of took the mantle of Gordon Tanner. I just liked writing Gordon. Gordon was such a wonderful character to actually write for. And then Babs had your kicker.
Cameron Bavington, yeah.
Yeah, the kicker.
Yep. Shredded to death by the cheerleader squad when pushed into the crowd.
Yep. Oh, God.
What a way to go.
Yeah. Oh, man. But, we had to put ourselves, if we were writing a Blood Bowl book, a book sort of based on Blood Bowl, we had to put ourselves in it. It's as simple as that.
I hear it's actually fairly common practice, even though there's that standard disclaimer at the front of the books that everything in the book is fictional. To actually use real people gives the people that you're making fictitiously at least have personality that is realistic, because it's based on people. So I like it. I think it's a good strategy.
Because it's like there's... and I thought, a bit of creative license, and stuff like that. And I thought, let's just put these people in there. And, so if people can, read the second and third books on Amazon, and I think
if you've missed out on the hard copy, you can still download the original book off Amazon. So all 3 books, Feudball 1, 2 and 3, are available on Amazon. You can download them in either Kindle format or EPUB format.
On Amazon Kindle, I think it's a very special format. I can't remember the name of the format, but there is a PDF option at Drive-Through Fiction, which the third book even has a map in it. So I've done a map for the third book. I haven't actually updated the other 2 yet, but they will be updated at some point. Yeah, so there's maps, there's the diagrams. Like there's a test reader they had for book 2 said you could put some of Gordon's blackboards in to describe how the teams have been positioned, the players have been positioned. I thought, that's not a bad idea. So I put in a few blackboards as well, and you'll find them in the PDF versions.
But if you want the limited edition hardcover that is sold out, with the artwork by none other than Mal Van Dremt, who I still catch up with from time to time and did so last Sunday, how do they get a hold, Millsy? How do they be a part of this raffle?
Well, we're going to. I don't know. I'm still on a buzz after this tournament, so we might have to do a bit of an edit later on in the podcast. But we're going to get this signed by both of you guys right now. I've got the copy in front of me with the Nico in hand, and we'll take photos of the team. We'll put them on here, and we'll organise some way of doing a raffle. So stay tuned, and it will be coming to your hot little hands if you win.
Brilliant.
Now, whilst we're there, you've done books 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I've heard a rumour that there might be a 4 and 5 in the pipeline.
I have got notes written for 4 and 5, yeah. 4 is just going to be a sort of a shorter one-off thing, and it's going to be based on one of the teams that the Jailbirds actually play in I think it's the second series, second and third. It's a women's prison team, and so there's going to be a little different take on it. But then I can tie that one into book 5, which will be about 10 years after everything happened at the end of book 3. And basically it's Liesl and Kim close to retiring, and they get a job offer to take up and start a all-female team playing in Manchester.
Nice.
And I thought, that's all right. And I won't put any extra spoilers in there, but Liesl is married by that time, but I'm not going to say who she's married to.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, if you're wondering about, what's this with prison teams, in the original Feudball book, it's a little bit like the Longest Yard. That was one of our inspiration movies. Yard. And the other one is a little bit of Shawshank Redemption in there as well.
One that I watched recently, which we got ideas for some of the character, The Replacements, which are with Gene Hackman. I thought that movie's grown on me quite a bit. The Mean Machine, the soccer version of the same film. There's a little bit of the James Caan movie, Speedball or whatever it is.
I know the one.
You know the one?
Yeah, the roller derby one, yeah.
Yeah. But there was a lot of influences, and it wasn't just movies, it was stuff we'd read and articles and goodness knows what else. There was a lot of stuff that we drew on. And I think it turned out quite all right. The book was actually quite good.
Well, it's fantastic. You mentioned Matt Forbeck's novels, and I kind of liked them because they were a bit of tongue-in-cheek and a bit of silliness. But there wasn't much blood bowl in Matt Forbeck's books. Sorry, Matt. This one is play-by-play, match after match. So thank you for putting that in.
And it may or may not happen that a lot of the events that occur in the matches are the old special play cards from 3rd edition. Hey, we're going to have to wrap up. I just want to say thanks so much, Geoff, for coming on down
No
on the
problem, no problem.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah. And
Cool.
The extra bit I wanted to say before I cross to Mildy is I just want to say Josh Petch that Geoff talks about now lives in Townsville. In fact, he went to Fumble in the Jungle this year. He won most casualties and the wooden spoon, in fact, with his dwarf team at Fumble in the Jungle this last month. So not only does Nigger
Yes, he took 4 people with piling on.
Yeah, that's right. He's a Josh Petch from the Feudball novels, from those early days. He's still around the Blood Bowl scene. So there you go. So Geoff, myself, Ziggis, and Josh Petch are all still playing Blood Bowl. How brilliant is that?
That's awesome. That's brilliant. And speaking of which, we mentioned that in our interview there that you might be able to get your hands on this team, and also the signed novel now. I have the signed novel in my little hands. So I'll be getting pictures of that team up shortly. And we might be doing a raffle type situation where it's $5 a ticket, and we'll draw that after a certain amount of time, which we'll put on our Facebook page, and the winner will get a Flagstaff Jailbirds human team that was played and came 11th, and the number 1 human team at Eucalyptus Bowl 2025. So stay tuned for more details.
This is the last part of our travel log on the road. We're just dropping myself off at home, and Stewie's got another hour and a bit to go, but we've clocked up over 2,300 Ks at 13:13 this afternoon, and we're on target to hit 2,500 before Stewie makes it home. Stewie, what do you think about our digs overnight?
Oh, look, nothing fantastic or flash to write home about. The beds were comfy. We stayed at a classic Aussie spot at the Billabong Motel. Can't get any more Aussie than a Billabong. We were up this morning pretty early, 5:45. We hit the road, and we've had a good trip home with only the odd crazy. Mind you, there's been a couple of really, I guess, gentlemanly or perfect human being drivers that have been polite and let other people past.
Which is few and far between on the roads these days. But besides dodging cassowaries, truckies, and other road hazards, we had a pretty smooth trip, and you're off again at the end of the week.
Yeah, that's correct. As you said, Dan, a bit over another hour, 2,500 clicks or so by the time I get home. I'll do a couple of days' work and then off to Feudball with Babs, Millsy, Zach Hancock and Wanna.
Yeah, it'll be a good representation of our local team heading on down to Feudball. Lots of players available, lots of prizes on offer, and plenty of glory to be earned and won there. What's your biggest takeaway from this weekend, and what are you going to take into the next weekend from that?
Oh, Dan, I think I'm going to take inspiration from you. Being the winner of Fumble in the Jungle for the second year running and apparently the king in the north. We might have a bit more to say about that a bit later in the podcast. But no, I've definitely picked up some tips from playing Chris Tats and being patient and looking at my dice before I go to re-roll anything. And we'll just see how it goes. It's going to be a great weekend.
Absolutely, mate. But you should also be really proud of only letting in one touchdown each in of 2 separate games out of 5. Keeping a clean sheet on 3 of them is nothing to be upset about, though.
Yeah, pretty happy with that. You know, had my opportunity there, but a tough game against Tats with his Tomb Kings, and that kept me out of second spot. But that's the way that the dice roll. I guess not the takeaway, the negative for the game was rolling 8 double skulls. 2 of them were roll double skulls, re-rolled into double skulls. That happened twice. So I'm sort of considering myself lucky to have gotten away with only 1 touchdown against me from him. But anyway, no, it was a great weekend all round. It's been a great road trip. Been awesome road tripping with you, Dan.
Cheers, Stewie. It's always a good time together. Plenty of tunes in the car, plenty of good banter, backwards and forwards. And we'll wrap that one up and we'll see you all again soon.
Hey, speaking of you painting up a few miniatures, Millsy, do you want to quickly launch something else we're planning to sell?
We do. We've you might have heard in our a previous episode how we're painting up the Down Under Wood Denizens, which is a second ed, I think it's second or third ed, sorry,
Third ed.
Wood Elf team. Third ed Wood Elf team. We've got the complete team with all the all the catchers and the throwers and so on. We've got all those there, so we're painting those up for. I think it's Ewan that's volunteered to purchase those off us, but it got us thinking because we're trying to raise some money for ourselves to go to Malta, and we're trying to give something back to you, not just getting money off you for no reason. That we're actually going to be doing. We've purchased a few of the metal 3rd edition star players. And so we're going to get those painted up as well and be selling those off individually.
Yeah, well, we managed to snaffle a bit of a bulk lot, and so we actually managed to grab one star player we've already grabbed and utilised is Jordell Freshbreeze. So Ewan, who is our person who commissioned the Down Under Wood Denizens, is going to get a 3rd edition Jordell Freshbreeze thrown into the mix. So yeah, we've managed to do that, and of course, we do have the ability to produce another painted team if somebody's really interested in having the Down Under World Denizens commission paint a team for you. Reach out, please. But we've got 6 star players available, and we are planning to paint them up, and we would even potentially take a color scheme of your choice if you are willing to commission us to get those models painted. Or, of course, you can wait for us to paint them and then purchase them off us. So let's run through the 6 players. Millsy, do you want to run us through what the 6-star players are?
Okay, so we have 7-star players.
Do we? Do we have a second Jordell?
Yeah, the 5th edition one.
Oh, yeah, we do too. Yeah, we do. You are spot on. Correct.
Who'd have thunk it?
But there's also all the extra bonus bits and bobs we got too. Like, there's a goblin and there's like a witch elf and there's a couple of beastmen.
There's 3 Chaos Warriors.
Yeah, a couple of ghouls which we could potentially put into a whole team. A couple of dwarves.
Yeah. There's quite a fair bit there.
So, I guess the key point to our listeners is that if there's if you have a hole in your 3rd edition classic collection that you want to supplement with some additional positionals, we may have what you need. If it's a Chaos Warrior, if it's a couple of ghouls, if it's some dwarves, if it's a Norse Blitzer, if it's a couple of beastmen you need to fill your spot, if it's a couple of zombies you need, if it's a goblin, we've got you covered. We've actually got those positionals. But let's just run through those stars again, Millsy. Who are those stars we've got?
Okay, we have Fungus Saloon, Nobbler Blackwart, the Mighty Zug, Grim Ironjaw, Ripper Bolgrot, Vara Gulchewer, and we also have a 5th edition Jordell Fresh Breeze.
Who's very rare, I might add. He is the pick of the lot in terms of price tag. He's pretty exclusive. He was released in that 5th edition period under specialist games, and not very many of that miniature sold. So we've got him in our hot little hands, and he's going to be a really valuable pickup for some collector.
And to his credit, he's also not a horrifically ugly model like the 5th edition Griff.
True, although they did remedy that with the one that came later in 2009, a much better sculpt. Yeah, there were kind of 2 5th edition Griffs.
Yeah, not the diving forward one. That was atrocious.
No, the tripping over Griff, yeah.
The trip Griff.
Tripwire Griff. So yeah, if you wanted to add to your collection and you want to support Down Underworld Denizens at the same time, and you want to end up with a lovely, well-painted miniature, well, mate, all 3 of those things can come together in harmony. Reach out to us, and we'd love to chat. We'd love to support you in your collecting, and also support us in traveling to some Blood Bowl tournaments a little further afield than we usually get to.
And speaking of getting further afield than we usually do, we've got some boys over in the UK that we might have lined up a bit of a chat with. So we've got the lads from Channeled Fury. So Channeled Fury is another podcast that runs out of England, and we've got a bit of a chat coming up with them right now.
Okay, so at Down Underworld Denizens, we'd just like to welcome our 2 very special guests, our guest commentators for episode 15. From the podcast in the UK, Channeled Fury, this is Jim Brown, whose NAF name is Salon Tiger. He is the current newly appointed commissioner of the London-based DBL, which is a league which in its day has had over 70 coaches in some seasons. And Rob Murcutt, NAF name. Rob, what's your NAF name? Salty?
Salty Murcutt is literally me being salty plus my surname. So cool.
I mean, I feel that in my heart, mate. I can appreciate that.
Whereas Millsy just enjoys a swim in the salt water, so he's salty too. So Rob is a former commissioner of the rival, and I put rival in inverted commas, FBL, another league in London. And he's also a very well-travelled international Blood Bowl coach who is currently aiming to travel to 25 Blood Bowl tournaments across 25 different countries. So that's an incredible goal to aspire to. We will come around to asking some questions about that in a moment. But first, I'm going to pass over to Wilts to ask our first standard question of our guest commentators.
Okay, gentlemen, for open question for each of you is, how did you first get into Blood Bowl, and approximately when was that?
Oh, well, I'll dive in here and say, first of all, thanks for the invite, guys. Great to be on. Love the podcast and do listen. So looking forward to listening to my voice on someone else's podcast for a change, rather than while I'm editing out Rob's bits and pieces. I've I got into it. The DBL is a great London organisation that runs a few leagues. You've already referenced the largest one we do, and I got into it same time as Rob, so I'm kind of stealing his answer here a bit. Something called the UU. We run the Underworld University, which is a league focused entirely on beginners. So people are playing their first or potentially second league, still learning the rules. And I got into that just after 2020 was released. So I think about 2021. So I've been playing for about 4 years, played a league, lost to Rob, and despite that, still loved it and still liked it. And that was run by a legend of the game in London called Mark Hampson, who set up the DBL, and he's still going strong. So there's probably 20 to 40 new players a year get their first exposure of league through that dedicated forum. Rob, what do you want to add to that?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly the same. I mean, I used to play Warhammer Underworlds, the sort of minis and card game over the board. And then when big old COVID came round and made that a bit more of a challenge because you couldn't meet people face to face, we did an online league, but they were still pumping out releases like nobody's business because good old Games Workshop. And then when we got out of COVID, the game had sort of died off. People weren't interested. The competitive scene had completely changed. So I was like, oh, well, this is a shame. I like the social of the hobby space. So I looked at other systems, and Blood Bowl was the one that sort of appealed the most. And yeah, I bumped into Mark a couple of years before that at a board game cafe. He was just playing a game of Blood Bowl a few tables over, and I sort of wandered over and was like, what's going on here? This looks great. Never really signed up. I just missed sign-ups for a DBL season. So that sort of fell by the wayside. And then, yeah, once Warhammer Underworld sort of slowed down for me, I was like, Blood Bowl's the game. And same as Jim, jumped into the UU, had a great time in there. That finished, and then there was a good three-month period before the DBL started. So I went, well, how do I fill this hole in Blood Bowl? And I literally just jumped in and just spoke to Mark, and that's when the SBL was created.
Brilliant. So what about favourite teams? Now, unlike Channeled Fury, we don't guess. We'll just let you tell us.
I'll lead off on this one.
Yeah, go on, Rob. Yeah.
Fairly straightforward. Humans from me as my favourite team in the game. A little bit of everything and a whole lot of nothing at the same time. They're just a beautiful baseline team. If you get yourself in trouble positioning wise, it's just a 3+ and you can fix it. You know, you've got all the skills to start off with. You've got your 4 block, you've got your dodge on you've got your pass and your sure hands. You've got the big guy, you've got the TTM option. It's got a little bit of everything, depending on how you want to play them. And there's a whole bunch of different ways you can build into humans if you want to be passing play or the slow grind. And one of the teams that I've done quite well with, so that always helps.
And I definitely don't know yet. My challenge to myself is to play all 30 races in tournaments. I'm up to 20 at the moment, so I'm getting there. But there's at least 10 that I can't give justice to as an answer. I do think even when I've played them all, I think I'll struggle to settle on one. One of the things I love about the game is the massive variety of play styles with one rule set and the way you can alter from that. At the moment, if you really push me, the most fun I've had is actually with Chaos Chosen. I really enjoy that team. They're not great. That's one of the things I like about it. So you go in with low expectations, and that's always a good place to start. But you can skill them up in different ways. You can develop them in different ways, and you're always in the game with a strength or blitz possibility from any of your players. So I do really like Chaos Chosen. There's some good character in there as well.
Very nice.
Yeah. I think we might have an ally on the Down Underworld denizens there. My secret with Chaos Chosen is ball handle with the Warriors. There you go. There's my secret.
Yeah, that 3+ is great.
Yeah.
Millsy.
Yeah. All righty. Now, well, you guys are both commissioners of a league or have been in the past, and you've spoken about tournaments. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer the league or do you prefer the tournaments?
I think we've both run tournaments as well, or Rob's about to run his first one. So we've both done a bit of everything, played in and run both. I still marginally prefer league. I love the story as your team develops. I love creating a theme around my players. I love naming them. I love their character changing and players developing with skills that you don't expect, especially with random skills that come much more into league. And I just think that's a really different experience. And playing a game where you're 200 TV down or 200 TV up is a different kind of challenge than you're going to get in the tournament. I'm growing in tournaments. I really enjoy them, but I prefer a league personally.
And I'm the complete opposite. Give me a tournament any day of the week. Not every time you're going to have the closest match in a tournament. There are still, your swings and your checks and your balances. You will have some really good coaches playing against coaches who haven't got much Blood Bowl under their belt. But especially with the new Blood Bowl tournament manager, I think it is, that app, the way it does pairings, it literally pairs you as closely as possible to the person on the same record as you. And you just have some of the best games because you are literally playing someone who's just as good or just as bad as you. You've both got a set team. Your team you haven't got MNGs to worry about. You didn't have your big guy die the previous game. You both just have a level playing field of a proper just butting heads and, playing solid fun Blood Bowl. It's always a super challenge. And I don't get that as much in League because someone's team can just overdevelop. And I don't think stars and inducements necessarily fill that gap as much. But saying that, I'd argue your first couple of months in the game is building that social aspect, which is a massive part of Blood Bowl for me.
Awesome. Our next standard question is, if there was one thing you could change in the current rules or a team you could add or remove from the game, what would you do?
I don't think there's a hell of a lot that needs to change at the moment. I think, there was an FAQ just this last week. There was relatively little in it, and it tells you, that the game is in a reasonably solid place. I'm going to deliberately cheat your rules, and I'm going to both add and delete, but I'm going to add and delete the same team. I'm gonna delete Slan as an unofficial NAF roster because I think that confuses some people who are coming into tournaments or leagues for the first time and have picked up a rulebook and don't see it. And I'm going to get them added back in as a Squigs team with essentially the same kind of rule set that's issued by GW because I think that's some IP they can get behind, and some bouncing Squigs across the pitch would be super fun. So that's my cheating way of answering that question.
Calm down, Millsy. Calm down.
we actually discussed this on episode 14. So if you want to hear more about that, listen to episode 14.
Mine is, I've batted on about this one for a while around anyone who will listen, is wildly inaccurate. It should just be the scatter template faced in the same facing that the player that's throwing the ball, and then it should be a 1-2 goes to the left, 3-4 straight down the middle, 5-6 to the right, and then either 1d6 or 2d6. I'm a bit of an NFL fan. I've never seen a quarterback throw the ball 10 yards behind them when attempting a pass.
You've obviously never watched the Jacksonville Jaguars, but never mind.
Well, normally the only time I've ever seen it happen is if the quarterback is being tackled at the exact moment they're throwing the ball. That's the only time I've seen something like that.
Yeah, an open thrower should not be throwing it behind him.
Yeah.
But that's very similar to a fix that I've been considering as well, yeah.
So let's move on to favourite star player. Either it could be the model, it could be the stats. You can answer it either way. It's open to interpretation. So let's start with you, Jim. Favourite star player?
Again, super hard. I do collect all of the models that GW put out and a bunch of third-party ones. So every time I paint a roster, I paint some dedicated star players in those colours teams. I do about 30 models a roster, and I've painted everything apart from Dark Elves. So I've got shelves full of this stuff. I will come off the fence as hard as it is. I'm in the middle of painting Chorfs, which I hate as a team to play. But I think the Hathark model, both his stats and the model that GW produced, despite being on two legs, is are wonderful. So I think that's a great model, really well represented on the pitch, that does exactly what it says on the tin.
And has he been unstoppable in your testing so far?
I've not got to play him yet, so we'll see how that goes. It's not very often even a player as bad as me is that much TV down in a league, and I've only played Chorfs in league so far.
Should he be a megastar?
Yeah, pretty obviously yes, but yeah, they won't do that for another. They won't do that for another 6 months. They've not sold enough copies yet.
Okay, Rob, favorite star.
Just purely off of what he does, and what he does, he is very good at, and it is Nobler Blackwall and that beautiful, beautiful chainsaw. It has served me to great effect this season.
Excellent.
Yeah, ring ding ding, fire up the chainsaw, run it into a blood spawn on turn 1 of the game, roll kickback, roll a 1, pass the loner, and then kill and then stat bust the blood spawn that has guard, block, all sorts of horrors on it, turn 1 of the game. And that made life a lot easier.
No, you're supposed to roll the loner successfully and then re-roll another 1. Isn't that always the story?
You're giving away my tactics, Wilts.
Yes, I do love a chainsaw. Chainsaws are just super fun. They're so swingy. Chainsaws and ball and chains are where it's at. If you're taking the star, take something fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love it. Okay, and our final question. So the Down Underworld Denizens crew, we make it over to England there. You guys take us out for out to a pub for a meal. What's your favourite pub meal?
Rob, I'm still deciding here. Do you want to go first?
I'll jump in. I'm pretty sure this must be a fairly British thing, but Hunter's Chicken, which is a chicken breast wrapped in bacon, slathered in barbecue sauce with a side of chips and a salad. What more could you want? It has 2 different meats. It's got barbecue sauce and chips. Job
Why
done.
don't we have that in Australia? What's going on? I'm missing
What?
out.
I am moving over now. That sounds amazing.
So if you just say English place to go out and eat, then it would be the traditional pie and mash for me. But for pub grub, the Hunter's Chicken is my go-to. If it's on the menu, that's what I'm getting.
As you may have guessed from my my talking about wanting to play every different team, I'm the sort of guy, if I go to a pub, I'll take whatever's on the specials board. That's not going to cut it today. So I'm going to go back to gammon, egg and chips with a nice fat piece of pork, some sort of chips, big dollop of mayo, maybe some peas on the side, just to pretend that you're getting a bit of veg in there. But that'd be my go-to default pub meal.
Fair enough.
Do you have, if you're having gammon, do you have the pineapple?
I go egg, Rob. I can understand pineapple, but I'd go
Then
fried
you have
egg.
both. Why are you limiting it to one?
Sounds,
For a guy
Tell
who
us the
wants to sample
sophistication
everything,
involved.
have
Get
both.
pineapple.
sounds like an Aussie burger where we have pineapple and beetroot and egg all on the one burger.
Yes.
I love a bit of beetroot on a burger. That's a nice idea. Maybe I'll move out to you. We could swap.
Exchange program. Let's line it up.
Yeah, tournament exchange. House sitting. Hey guys, I want to jump in to talk about London for a moment. Obviously, most of our listeners are based in either New Zealand or Australia, and within London, the league scene you've managed to cover reasonably well in your podcast. So if you haven't listened to Channel Fury and you're listening to Down Underworld Denizens, I do highly commend it. Please do give it a listen. In particular, a couple of recent episodes, you talked specifically about the SBL and the DBL. The third major league that often gets a mention is the ECBBL, which has an interesting Australian connection that I can come back to. And I think you also mentioned that there's a league in Bromley. Now, I don't even know what these acronyms mean. I don't know. I think the ECBBL has got to do with a pub they used to meet in, but don't currently or something. But I don't even know what SBL and DBL even mean. And then you talk about how each league has to have something kind of distinctive about it or a bit of a brand. Yeah, tell us a bit about, what is that scene like? What does SBL, DBL, ECBBL mean? And how much crossover is it? Whereabouts are they geographically based?
Well, I'll start off with the acronyms and breaking them down, and then maybe Jim can go over the leagues because there's another league that Jim has also played in the London area. So we'll start off with the DBL is the Dragon Bowl League, and that's about to start its 11th season. They do one season a year. Then you've got the Salt Bowl League is the one that I've started up. It's there to induce salt, so that's what it's named. And obviously, me being Salty Merker, it sort of was on brand when I first created the league, not realising how big it would get. The ECBBL is the Edinburgh Castle Blood Bowl League, and that is the pub that they first started playing in before having moved around a couple of pubs since then. And they run, sorry, I should have said SBL and ECBBL both run 2 seasons a year, a sort of spring or summer and a winter season. And SBL's been going for about 4 years. ECBL has been going for nearly 20 plus years, I think. That's one of the oldest leagues going, I believe. And then you've got Bromley. They run a couple of leagues all at the same time, I think, or they run a couple of leagues a year. But the league you can run multiple teams in their league, I believe. So you can have an orc team and a human team, and you just can play a maximum of, I think, 5 or 6 games, and then they're capped, and then whoever has the most points makes playoffs. And then there is a Surbiton League as well, down in the south of London, which is a bit closer to Jim, that Jim has played in.
Yeah, and they are all different characters. There's a couple of others floating around in London that we've not played yet. I suspect there's a league at Surrey Spartans, I think, and there's a couple of others, but we've not got out and discovered them yet. Yeah, there used to be a league at a club called Hate, which isn't quite as bad as it sounds. I think there was the Hackney Tabletop Enthusiasts. Yeah, so they've been. London is a big city, and I think you guys have mentioned you cover a vast area. We cover a relatively small area with a vast number of people, but it still takes a while to travel around places in a big city like London. I don't know if the leagues have to have a distinctive style, but a lot of them have ended up with one, and I think that's a really nice thing for variation in play. So the SBL that Rob founded was very much, don't come here and try and be a try-hard. So most seasons, Tier 1 is banned. It's about having fun. It's about playing with your mates. It's about some silly rules, uses some rules from the Spike magazines. It has different balls in play. So it's not your standard game of Blood Bowl. The ECBBL is historically, and I don't mean this as a criticism, the try-hard league. So people who want to play some serious competitive bowl. So most of Team England historically, the old guard of Team England all came from having played in that league. Some of the very best players, the guy who just won the NAFC, for example, for the second time, was an ex-player in that league. Really high standard of play, pretty serious about its rule set. Tries to cut out some of the big variations that can come from some extreme style players. And very much aims for a standard measure of play. So, for example, they try and match up teams for league matches based on similar TV, so there isn't a big difference. Whereas the Surbiton League and the Blood Bowl League are very much local. They're in the suburbs of London, and they're aimed at capturing local players. Some of them do some interesting things. The Bromley League, for example, runs a separate league just for children, which is a really nice way of getting them into the game. And then the DBL, I would argue, is the kind of league you come if you want a fun first experience, very focused on the fluff. Every team has to have a logo. Every team, we encourage them to tell a story as they develop their team, including in the chats and as we go along. Some big set piece nights. We have draft night where we'll get 50 plus people in a room, being very loud, enjoying themselves, maybe with a little bit of help from the odd drink or two, and then playing their games afterwards. And it takes all sorts of players, from absolute beginners through to really experienced tryhard. So there's a lot of different flavour of Blood Bowl that we managed to play through having those different leagues. And that does mean there's a fair bit of crossover of players. And Rob, you're probably better placed to touch on that than me.
Yeah, well, I think it is that. I think that's why a lot of the central leagues, so the ECBL, the DBL, and the SBL, like to have a bit of a brand, because if we were all the same, then you'd have less players interested in playing in all three of them. Whereas at the moment, there's a small group that play in all three of the leagues because each of them offer something a little bit different. Whereas if we're all fighting, offering the same thing, then we're all getting slightly less players, or we're not really growing or gaining more Blood Bowlers, which I think is a detriment to the league.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Like, for example, in Brisbane at the moment, we have a league in the CBD called Vault Bowl, based out of Vault Games. We have there's a league in Ipswich that has kind of gone gangbusters. It's got over 40 coaches in it, which is massive in the Australian Blood Bowl scene. Then there's another couple of little leagues around, and then there's the North Brisbane Blood Bowl League, which tends to attract quite competitive coaches, not just from Brisbane, but from the Sunshine Coast, because they're not very far away. And of course, Sunshine Coast has their own league. And then, there's a couple of little ones. There's one down South Brisbane, and there's another one that I've heard of that's I'm just aware of within the last 12 months. But they tend to be based predominantly around geographic location, like North Brisbane or Ipswich, or, as it vaults in the CBD, and not so much around the style. So it's quite an interesting thing that you've kind of got diversity in the style of your leagues, or what the flavour of the league is, and therefore attracts a bit of crossover. At the moment in Brisbane, there is some crossover across the league. So yeah, it's really interesting to compare and contrast, I think. Is travel around London pretty easy, and that's why you get some good crossover, or is it that they're very decentralised leagues?
All three are pretty much central. They're all within probably 3-mile radius of each other. The three big clubs all play within a sort of 3-mile radius, just on different weeknights normally and different times of the year, so you can balance out, not overloading yourself with too many games.
And travel is easy, but can be time consuming. So it's all public transport. It's an hour to get anywhere in inverted commas. I mean, clearly it's not, but you assume it's going to be a reasonable travel to get anywhere. So one of the things that most of those leagues do in different ways is allow people to play in different venues that suits them. They all have a home effectively, and they'll all play, some of their games there. But depending on the league, most of them will allow you to go and find a local pub or find a local gaming club that suits you and your opponent and play there.
Brilliant. Do you know the connection between Australia and the ECBBL?
I'm assuming.
Well, I know we've got
Gumby.
Yeah, Team Australia captain.
Well, actually, that's not the connection I was going to mention. That is true. But I was just going to say that we had a member of the ECBBL emigrate out to Australia. His name was Ian Double Skull Williams. And when he arrived, he was the first person in Australia really to say, hey, tournaments are meant to reset every game. There's this thing called resurrection style tournaments. We're like, what is that thing? What's that all about? And so he started Eucalyptus Bowl, which of course is now the Australian major. So it's the fifth major. So Ian Double Skull Williams came out from ECBBL. He had the shirts to prove it and all the rest of it. And he did go back to the UK, and I've not really heard much from him since. I don't even know that he's playing the game anymore. But he was an ECBBL player.
Fantastic. If he is playing it, he's not playing it in the ECBBL.
Or he's changed his name.
Well,
those who have been around the ECBBL a long time would know him. That's for certain.
We will. We'll ask Val next time we're there.
But unfortunately, you're going to lose Gumby because he's coming back. He's emigrating to Australia. He's coming back.
Yeah, he might be bringing another one with him. You might be gaining Loinster as well, by the sounds of it. Another very competent English coach whose partner is Australian and is looking to emigrate out as well. I think they're looking to emigrate at a similar sort of time. So,
yeah, I knew blood bowlers were sensible people.
Yeah.
Oh, you've not met Loinster then.
Hey, Jim and Rob, the tournament scene in England. I've heard rumours. I've heard that it's really plentiful. Is it true that you can travel to a Blood Bowl tournament almost every single weekend if you want to?
Oh, multiple.
Yes.
This is just unheard of in Australia. It blows our minds that you can go to a tournament any weekend you wish. That's just not a thing.
You would have to travel up and down the country a little bit for it. I mean, you could do a good amount within probably a couple of hours drive fairly regularly, and then you'd have to do a few more that were, maybe 4 or 5 hours away or a weekend away if you wanted to max out every weekend of the year. But it would not be that unfeasible. I think someone did do it. One of the ex-London NAF reps did do it a while back, but he hasn't played many tournaments since he did that. So I think it did destroy him a little bit.
Well, speaking of burnout, which is what you're talking about, if you're interested to hear more about it, Channel Fury are going to have a bit of a chat with us about that in their own podcast. So it's not going to be on Down Underworld Denizens. It'll be on Channel Fury. So if you want to hear about that, listen in to Channel Fury when we're on. Hey, so how do you choose? Obviously you've got a tournament every weekend. There's a plethora of tournaments. How do you pick which one you want to go to?
Go on, Jim.
That's a really good question. And some of it's about what's local to you. So clearly travel's, a bit of an issue, and getting away is you guys will drive for hours and hours and hours. We're very lucky we don't have to. So if you can go to something that's an hour away on public transport and you're going to be able to have a couple of beers and enjoy it rather than having to drive 2 hours and be terrifyingly sober, then that's probably the tournament that's going to win. But there's a combination of other factors I look at personally. One of them is tournament series, which we'll come back to, but the other is really who's going to be there, what's the rule pack, is it an opportunity for me to do something a bit different? I think if every tournament was following a set rule pack, it would get quite dull quite quickly, and that can happen when there's a big tournament like Euroball and the World Cup, where people start defaulting to that rule set to test rosters. I don't play lots of test rosters, so I'm much more interested in doing something different. I look for a tournament that has different tiering or a special allowance for a star player, or wants you all to bring a chainsaw or something that's a little bit different or a little bit unusual, because ultimately I play this game for fun, not to win. I prefer winning. I have slightly more fun when I win, but I'll have fun regardless, and I'll do that by doing something different, and doing it with people that I enjoy. But tournament series are the other thing, because you're going to meet a consistent bunch of people. You get the benefits or downsides of being ranked against them, so you can understand how you're progressing. So there's a couple of relatively local tournament series to us, the Southeast Series and the London Series. And if a tournament's in one of those, it's going to get a bit of priority for me.
So do the tournament series in the UK kind of help coaches to stick to a series rather than go further afield? Or is its purpose a little bit like here in Australia? The idea of the tournament series is really to encourage coaches to go to as many tournaments as they can within a calendar year. So it tries to draw coaches to, quite a few tournaments in that calendar year to get enough, scores to obviously end up first, second, third, or best Sunday. How does it work in the UK?
And really, it's exactly the same thing here. So I run the London tournament series, and it is all about trying to encourage people to run tournaments and people to go to tournaments. So it's definitely not about encouraging them to stay within one particular region. If people go and choose elsewhere, that's fine. And there's a bunch of people who will play in multiple series, particularly when they live close to the geographical border between two. But it's very much about encouraging more people to go to more venues and to support them and to play the game more often.
Yeah, I mean, Southeast Tournament Series kicked off last year. Was one of the ones that I first sort of heard of. And then speaking to the organizer of that, the big priority was getting people out to meet other people that weren't that far away from them. You only have to play 3 of the tournaments throughout a year to qualify for being in for the awards. I think last year it was 5, but I think now it's less. I think it's only 3. And it was a good way for me, because I'm on the border of London and the Southeast. It was 2 hours car ride, and I was at a tournament, and I got to meet a bunch of coaches from that part of England. Now that there's the London one, I prioritise doing ones in London because they're a bit closer. I can get home a bit earlier, and it's been nice for me that it's only 3 this year, because I probably will only do 4 or 5 this year. Tick that box, and then I can go and explore international waters.
And they've got another 9 across September and October. So within one tournament series in one part of the UK.
Wow.
That's a really big series. They've done incredibly well. And it's for the UK, it's quite a big geographic region. It's probably a 3 or 4 hour drive from one end to the other, which was, is significant in UK terms. Again, I appreciate who I'm talking to, and it's a bit different for you guys.
I have a feeling we'll get into more detail in that in just a minute.
Well, I'm just about to say I travel 2.5 hours to play a league game. So it's kind of ridiculous the amount of travel here. Like we will constantly do a 7-hour road trip down into Brisbane to play down there if we don't have one around here late, in our local area. But given the fact that you guys have so many you can go to, what prompts you to want to go to another country and play Blood Bowl overseas?
I'll let Jim go first on this one, because I can probably talk for forever on this topic.
So for me, I will do it because I don't get many weekends away. Got family that are still growing up that need my time and support to drive them to sports events and things. If I'm going to do a weekend somewhere, I want it to be a bit special and different. And combining it with a trip, finding 3 or 4 mates who want to go somewhere, making a weekend of it, making a social event of it, but also getting to experience a different style of Blood Bowl and a different culture are all really important factors to me in why I do it.
Yeah, I mean, I love an international. I mean, me and Jim have been on the same squad for the last 2 for the World Cup and the Euro Bowl, which is where we both sort of started traveling abroad for Blood Bowl. Absolutely loved it. And then I'm looking at moving in the nearish future, and my partner has done a lot of traveling. She also was in Australia for a couple of years. And I just wanted to play catch up. She's been to about 130 countries or something stupid. She added it up the other day.
Wow.
So I was like, I've only been to like 5. So I'm playing catch up, and I'm having a bit of my travel catch up now. So it sort of started off of the Team Scotland captain Jock. We've got chatting. We've been to a few tournaments. I did Bilbao last year, which literally I only went to Bilbao because I played one of the organisers in England at the UK Team Champions a year or so beforehand. And then somebody dropped out of a squad, and I was like, oh, I know the guys that organised that. I can sort of find the money and do that. And that was sort of what sort of drove me on to do the international side. And then Jock, the Team Scotland captain, said he was going over to Ireland to play early in the year. And then I knew some other Scottish guys that were going. Went over to Bleed Bowl in Cork in Ireland, and it was an absolute blast. Just having a sort of international contingent pop over, all do pretty well at the tournament. The hosts were fantastic. The Irish are always good fun to be around, and they were super welcoming. And that's where it's sort of the little challenge I put was me and Jock were going to race to see who could get to a certain amount of countries. That was a bit of I was thinking, oh, maybe we'll go for like 10 or something. That's a reasonable number, right? That won't be too bad. And then I was like struggling with my Blood Bowl a little bit. I was trying to be more competitive than I actually am. I was looking at the NAF figures and the CR ratings for all my teams and beating myself up about them. And I wanted to have a 200 team, and that's all I cared about. And then I just got to the point where I was like, I'm not enjoying the game because I'm so bothered by these silly internet numbers. And then there was the new challenge. I was like, I don't have to be good at Blood Bowl to go to 25 countries and play. And that's a record that I can potentially get, because 25 is the record at the moment for countries to travel to. And I was like, I can just throw money at that and achieve it. So that's what I'm going to try and do.
It helps if you enjoy it, definitely.
Yeah. And or in other cities.
Yeah.
But I've met so many coaches. Like, it's been great this year. I've obviously some of the people that I met in Ireland. There's a few that are coming down from Scotland to come to my tournament in a week's time. I mean, they have been in London before and played in the DBL and stuff. But I don't think they would have potentially made that journey if it hadn't been for the sort of relationships we made over traveling to Ireland. I went out to the German national and met a bunch of Germans there. And then when I was in Lisbon, Portugal for their national, some of the same Germans were out there. So I went out for dinner with them. And it's this nice little thing where if I'm going to an international, I can sort of, I know them from this tournament. I know them from this tournament. And I went to Portugal when I was the only English coach there. But I still bumped into the Germans. There was there was an Italian there that I bumped into. There was a Portuguese coach that I'd played in England before. And you just build those little relationships, and it's lovely just going around and checking in on people. Also, I'm a man that does swag, so everyone was after all the swag that I had, because I had patches, ball tokens, all sorts of bits and pieces to give out. Stun markers, that was the big one. Everyone was coming at me for stun markers. So that was good because it got people talking to me.
Excellent.
And the other thing you have to bear in mind, you talked about travelling 7.5 hours to go to Brisbane. We can be in Greece or Spain or Ireland or Italy in less than that. It's just a different world from that.
For me, is a lot of European coaches will take frenzy over tackle, whereas we are in the UK, we're definitely more tackle focused. And it's just a general play style. I remember Jim said on a previous episode when he was out in Italy at Fulginium, they're just way more aggressive in their Blood Bowl in Italy, which is something that, I didn't necessarily expect. And you do get a little bit of a slightly different flavour depending on where you are.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And slightly different style. Yeah, the Spanish generally, I mean, there's exceptions to all these rules, of course. The Spanish generally play very quickly. get, both the Spanish and the Italians are really excitable over the table. They like to chatter. They like to be loud. They like to celebrate successes and failures. One of the things I loved about the Italians was they will absolutely laugh at themselves when things go wrong. They'll get really into their own players killing themselves as much as killing yours. So there's definitely different cultures that are a little bit more reserved in the UK very often, which I don't mean as a bad thing. It's just a very different style. So I do enjoy that.
Absolutely.
What's it like in Australia?
Well, I didn't realise
mix.
I was Italian. Yeah, there's certain areas where people will just play hard regardless, and then there's people that just want to be there for fun, and that can be even within the tournament itself. It's like you look at the bottom of the tables and everyone's having fun, and it's just that family atmosphere.
Yeah, I love it. You literally, I was really nervous going to Portugal, knowing that no one that I knew was well. As I was traveling out there, they hadn't released a players list, so I didn't know who was going to be there. I had no idea, and I was a bit terrified of being like, it's just going to be me if I don't really bump into anyone. Also, potentially the language barrier, because obviously they're all speaking Portuguese out there. I was super worried, but literally played game one. My opponent was like, come outside, and literally, because you play in a palace, you can't drink in the actual venue. But literally, they pulled up with two like people carriers, and they just had coolers in the back, just full of beer and ice. And he's just cracks a beer, hands me a beer, and then they're all speaking in Portuguese. But then as soon as he sort of starts speaking to me in English, then they all switch to English, and they're all speaking to me in English. And I was like, it's just a really nice touch where you just felt welcoming. And this is one thing that I do hate as an Englishman that travels a lot, is Europe has exceptional English as a language, and I don't speak, and I can speak a very tiny bit of Spanish, but their English is always phenomenal, and I always feel really guilty. The Germans the same; they will just pretty much just switch straight to English and speak to you in really fluent English, and it's always a bit embarrassing, as I'm just like. I can't speak any of your language. I'm really sorry, but
what about when you guys travel or have travellers to and from New Zealand? Do those guys manage to speak English?
Depends on which ones you're talking to, I guess.
It's 46, bro. It's choice.
I thought I'd do that joke so you didn't have to.
I think it's a bit less shocking than the number of dialect variations around England itself. Between Australia and New Zealand, there's a lot more conformity. There's obviously the shared culture and the shared history. So it's even in Australia, there's a lot less diversity of dialects. There's generally 3.5 across almost the whole country. So it's pretty easy to get along with most people.
Yeah, makes sense.
When you are planning or going to a tournament overseas, is there something different in your preparations for the tournament itself, or is it mostly about the travel that you're having to prepare for?
Yeah, from my perspective, I just have to pack a toothbrush. I'd otherwise treat it pretty much the same.
More swag. I massively up my swag number when I'm doing international tournaments. So I will always have pairs of dice, ball tokens, beer mats, stun markers. Whatever I can get an order in for the tournament and take with me to give out as gifts, and swap with other coaches when I'm out there. I love the story of a Blood Bowl game, and I'm way more likely to remember a game if I've got a gift from my opponent. It's why I love the World Cups, the Euro Bowls. Getting the gift, remembering that game is just, I love it because it's a little memento to remember it. I've really enjoyed getting into patches recently. That was a big thing for me in Portugal. And I'm like, this is great. So I've now ordered a custom hoodie that I'm just going to get all my patches stuck to that. I'm going to have all my country flags down one arm, all my NAF patches down the other arm. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Now, I've just thought of one thing. If you're packing all of this swag to take with you to give away to people, is that part of a strategy that you've got more room in your suitcase to buy souvenirs and bring things home as well?
Partly, yeah. I normally, if I do internationals, I always like to get a pitch. So if they've got pitches on offer, I'll always pick up a pitch and stick that in my suitcase and then try and flatten it out. So I'm running my first tournament next weekend, but my plan is to provide pitches. I'll be bringing all of my international pitches that I've got, so people can play on the Dungeon Bowl pitch or the Luso Bowl pitch, or wherever I've travelled around Europe, and that collection will only get bigger. So eventually, once I've done all 25, I can run a 24-man tournament and have a pitch from every different country that I've been to.
There you go, Mills. So you don't have to feel bad about collecting so many pitches now.
Well, pictures are a great way to show off where you've been, but they're also a talking point when you rock up to a tournament or a league game and you put it down and you talk about that tournament. Hopefully, get your opponent interested in attending other tournaments.
Yeah, it's all that great story, right? It's all that story of and everyone's going to have their story, like Jim Malavy's stories from when he was in Italy that I wasn't at, that I'll always have fond memories. Or if he pulls out of his dice, and I'll be like, oh, is that the Fulginian dice? And it's that little conversation starter, especially when you go to your internationals, because the amount of times I've turned up to an international tournament and I've seen someone in a shirt that's got like a Yorkshire flower on it, and I'm like, oh, there's another Englishman here, and he's Danish, and he just did a shirt swap at the last international tournament that he was at. I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. But that sort of stuff I love. The shirt swaps is another really nice one as well. I haven't done any shirt swaps yet, but I do like that. That's another cool one.
We'll get on to some international swag for big events in a second. I was just going to ask, actually, do either of you have any superstitions regarding your dice? And considering all of us have massive dice collections, do you use the same dice for a whole tournament, or do you take a collection of them and swap them out if they're not performing well? What's the general habit for you guys?
I'm not superstitious at all. I'll have one set of dice, maybe two sets of D6, just for the ease of rolling armor break with one and injury with the other, and being able to leave them on the table. But I will use the same set of dice regardless. I don't get excited about it personally. I think that makes me an outlier in the scene, full stop.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, I'm 2 pairs of block dice, because I have a lot of not unreadable but slightly different ones, because I use block dice from the tournaments that I go to. So I always generally carry a slightly clearer set, so either Games Workshop or NAF dice. And then I have my funky block dice, which I'll always use my funky block dice unless my opponent says I can't read them. Then I'll swap to NAF or GW. 3 sets of D6, and they will get swapped out if they have a bit of a stinky game. And I always have a D12, 3 D8s, and then the other normal gubbins, because if I'm doing kickoff at a tournament, just roll 3 D8s at the same time on the scatter, because it doesn't matter. And a D12 is great for officious reps and stuff like that, because you're not just sitting there re-rolling 14s, 15s, 13s over and over and over again.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I'm not superstitious. I've just got some dice at work and some that don't.
You've also got to make sure your dice match colors when you roll them. We won't get into that more.
Yeah, that might be OCD.
Oh, I will say as well, if you have a logo on the 1, you can get in the bin.
Yes.
Oh no,
it has to be on the 6.
It has to be on the 6.
The exception is the Mountain Bowl dice of 2008, which is just in the Blue Mountains, and on the 1 it has the word crap. That's it.
If it's just used for things that fail on a 1, I can probably get on board with it. But if that's in your general pool for armor breaks and stuff, then I'd be like, oof.
I was listening to 3 Dice Block this morning while I was walking the dog, and one of the guys there is on the NAF ethics committee. And there is, you don't see this very often, but there are some people who will try and game things in the game. They had to listen to one case last year of someone who had a set of dice that didn't have 1s on them.
Yeah.
Two logos.
No, didn't have 1s, Rob.
So they had a multiple of another result.
As in
they had two logos on it, or they?
No, they had two 4s or 2 5s or 2 6s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just blatant cheating. Yeah.
I hope they played elves or vampires, because otherwise that's a waste.
Oh, don't worry, I can still find ways to fail on a 4.
Hey, final question. Like, obviously, Malta is going to be huge, absolutely enormous. You
Yeah.
know, I think there's actually a fair chance it could be over 3,000 coaches in the one place. You know, for those people, you know, on the other side of the planet like us who are thinking about going, what advice do you have for them?
Or go. It's pretty simple. The World Cup, if was an absolutely incredible event last time out. As Rob said, it was mine and his first international tournament. Pretty much 2,500 people in a room playing Blood Bowl, and it was a little bit like one of you described your scene earlier. It's 2,500 friends in a room. You can go and chat to anyone. You can talk to all sorts of people. You meet people from all over the world. There's a great social scene afterwards, and Malta will be like that. That it's a small enough place that everyone will be in the same place having a drink and catching up, and you will get to meet so many good people. It was an incredible experience. We do on our podcast, what's your favourite Blood Bowl moment? And we've had to ban people talking about the Alicante World Cup because it was getting too repetitive. Everyone's answer that had been to that tournament was, "This is the best thing I've done in Blood Bowl." Before Rob answers, I'll just touch on one other thing on Malta, because I thought it was a really nice touch. I was in Italy playing the Forginian Bowl, which was the Italian major that year, when the winners were announced, or just after the winners were announced, and the guys from the Malta team who were going to run the World Cup were there. So I was having a glass of wine and a dish of pasta with one of them over the table, and I said, brilliant, amazing, well done. What's going to be a load of challenges. And he said, "Yeah, do you want to know the strangest challenge?" I was like, "Okay." So we're having to work out how we ship tables into Malta because there aren't enough tables on the island to host as many players as we want to be able to play the game, which I thought is an interesting challenge for a TO.
Yeah, that's not something you
Wow,
normally have
never
to think
thought that.
about.
Yeah. So that's the sort of scale they're looking at.
Mine would be look at your location that you're going to stay in. Obviously, the tournament will be wherever the tournament is, but plan around where you want to be staying in the city that is being hosted in. Malta's got a little bit around it, so you can pick where you want to stay within the island and still be able to get to the event. But I think it's where do you want to be within everything else, if that makes sense. Where's all the good places to do for tourism? Where are potentially the good places to go out for an evening meal? Like if you know your squads, then you can talk about what's important to you as a squad of what you want to be doing. Where's going to be all the bars if you're someone who likes to go out for a drink of an evening. Think about the things outside of the Blood Bowl, because the Blood Bowl, once that begins, it kind of just looks after itself. Once you pick your rosters, you pack your bags with your teams, that will all just sort itself out on the day. The TOs will look after that for you pretty much. But it's when the tournament day is done. A lot of these will be 3-day tournaments. What are you going to do on the Thursday night when you land? What are you going to do on the Friday night? Do you want to leave one evening free for the people that you've met to maybe go out with those? It's filling the other hours outside of the tournament, because that's a problem I have a lot, where I'll go on my own to these tournaments and I'm like, great, but if no one's going out for a beer after this, I've got 4 or 5 hours to kill before I'm going to bed and then waking up for day 2 of the tournament tomorrow. So yeah, always think about where you want to stay and then what you want to be doing of your evenings.
But in practice, Rob, someone always goes out for a beer with you.
Yes, I've generally always had someone to go for a beer with.
It's definitely never a struggle in Australia with tournaments. There's always someone inviting you out for a beer or going to somewhere. It's a really companionable and camaraderie atmosphere is great.
Yeah, and this is the other thing as well, right? If you've got, I don't know how many Aussies will be going, but if you've got, a couple of squads of Aussies, trying to link up, all be in the same sort of region so you can meet up. That's generally what a lot of the London teams were doing. I think for Malta, we're looking at a 17-person mansion on an Airbnb with a massive swimming pool that we're all just going to mob to, and then just live the high life, because with that many people, it becomes quite cheap and achievable.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
It does.
Does that mean any of you guys are any of you guys considering it?
We are.
It's in initial planning stages.
And have you? I mean, someone said that. Had anyone played in Europe before?
We're about to have one of our guys play in Europe. Stewie's been invited to the Euro Bowl team for Australia.
Oh, fantastic!
So he's desperate to get more practice games in because he doesn't want to let anyone down, but I think he just needs to relax and he'll be able to handle business quite happily.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've spoken to a couple of people on some of the international teams, and I think it is about that. People do go, they build it up as a big thing, which it is. It's a great honour to be asked to do it, but people put a lot of pressure on themselves, and I think you do need to remember it's about having fun first, and you'll probably play better that way.
yeah. I think the reason I've not been to any of the World Cups so far, I've actually been involved in every World Cup, just not actually going. I've just kind of been helping from the sidelines, if you like. And it's just for me, it's just purely cost. Just even getting over there, and then if you're going to travel all the way over there, it's probably 20 hours one way of flying time. And then you're going to want to make the most of that. So you're going to, well, I want to at least spend a couple of weeks over there. So then you've got to add all the costs up for that as well. And then all the all the costs to get over there and back in terms of travel costs. You're probably looking absolute minimum price, kind of $6,000 Australian. So that's what, £3,000 ish. So I've just never been able to justify it.
And then
It's a
add
really
on
big
top
thing.
of
And
that,
if you've
you're
got,
taking your family.
yeah,
Yeah, if you're
exactly.
taking your family, that number just exponentially goes up, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you kind of have to take the family, right? Because otherwise you might not be alive in a couple of weeks.
Well, you might not come back to one.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's
Well,
one way to
pick
look
one,
at your
yeah.
family. So yeah, so you're talking, I'm not even exaggerating, probably talking, £6,000 or $12,000 for me to get over to Malta, because obviously the family comes, right? So
Yeah, but then hopefully you can make a great holiday of it, right? And that becomes like your yearly holiday, or maybe your bi-yearly holiday if it's costing that much money. But this is also where I think we have to give credit to a lot of Blood Bowl partners, the wags, as I like to call them, the wives and girlfriends. They all put up with us and let us get away with pushing our tiny toys around and traveling around a little bit. I know I'm very lucky that thankfully my better half Becky has done all of her traveling, so she doesn't mind, because I go, oh, I'm going to this place, and she's like, yeah, I've already been there. Off you go.
lovely. Well, we're kind of giving it all a dry run by heading to New Zealand later this year, aren't we? Wilson Millsy?
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Our first international tournament.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and Millsy and I will have our Brawler Day for the week after the tournament, whereas Babs is having his week ahead of the tournament with the family and different scheduling there, but that's okay.
What tournament are you guys going over for?
This is the Ostbowl State Championships. We could talk about it more on Channel Fury, in fact, but it's kind of Australia and New Zealand's version of Eurobowl.
Fantastic.
But on standby in case I'm needed for the real teams.
Oh, you'll have more fun in the Greenfield Cup, I'm sure.
I'm sure I will.
Anything from you?
I was just going to ask, you asked earlier about obviously the different leagues in London and them having sort of somewhat the different identities. The leagues around you, are they all quite similar, or do you pick and choose? Would you travel somewhere a bit further out if it had a rules pack that was more in line with how you like to play?
We are the league. What do you mean plural?
If I lived on the southeast corner of Queensland, I would probably be involved in all four leagues that are the big ones that I know about all at the same time. Obviously, being in central Queensland, it's a bit harder because it's 6-7 hours drive down there. I'm not going to just drive down there for a weekend, play 2 league games, and then come home. But I'll drive down for a tournament 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really for us, it's you play online or you play in the one league that exists, and we've kind of amalgamated kind of a few leagues that were struggling to form one viable league across several regional towns, regional cities that are several hours in between each other.
Yeah, so ours is the Gerbil. It stands for Gladstone, Emerald, Rockhampton, and Bundaberg. So if you're looking at it at driving at 100 kilometers an hour, like on a standard highway,
Yeah.
I'm the furthest south. That's Bundaberg. 2.5 hours north is Gladstone. Another hour and a little bit up to Rockhampton, and then from Rockhampton out to Emerald is another 2.5 hours drive, all on
all on highway driving. So it's a fair old distance that we cover.
Yeah, that really is. Playing a league match in York, Rob.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Hey, mate.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, this is Millsy saying it's win or the casualty bin.
And this is Wilts for a second round of Chaos Undivided, Chaos Undefeated.
And you've proven it. King of the North.
Yeah.
And this is Babs saying, I'm not sure I'm a stunty coach. Do I have to keep doing this? Yes, I do.
At least twice more.
Yeah.
Cardiac blood boil, honestly, heart in your mouth the whole time.
We might remember one of my goals at the start of the year was to do a chain push to score a one-turn touchdown. Happy to say at Ute Bowl, I got the
You
chain
managed to
push.
pull it off?
I managed to push my my human catcher 3 squares. That's why I took frenzy on a couple of my blitzers. Then went and picked up the ball with a re-roll with my thrower, 2 go for it's, and rolled 2 ones for the throw. But
Now,
I did get the push. I did
You
get the
put the
push
ball in
and
the right
only
spot.
needed to. Yes, I got the push in the correct spot, but then my human thrower was the only
left the
time he
most
failed
important
me.
part behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't manage to throw a halfling for a one turn, but I did chain push Griff for a one turn.
Nice.
Yeah, well, it's statistically slightly more likely because the hefties can pass to Griff, but if you're
Oh,
throwing
yep.
a halfling, you can't pass anyone. So you basically need Griff to go fetch the ball, and there are certain parts on the board where if the ball gets kicked to, you just can't get to. So statistically, it's
Yeah.
actually more likely to chain push Griff for the one turn than it is to throw a halfling for a one turn because of that fact. You can't pass and then throw a halfling. So yeah,
That's why you need Grack and Crumbleberry, so you can kick a teammate instead.
I did
Yeah.
throw a halfling and score in the same turn with that halfling, but it wasn't a one turner.
Alrighty.
Technically correct. The best kind of correct.
The best kind of correct.
I think we recorded episode 15.
We've got it in the bag, and
It's going to be a
from-
bumper episode again.
it's going to be a big one.
He still has jump up.
Does he?
Yeah.
He had pro under the old rules too.
Just because he never gets knocked down doesn't mean he doesn't still have jump up.
Varag Chumbawamba Guljua.
In Cairns was my Minotaur passed his first ever KO recovery roll. Normally when my Minotaur goes off the
Wow.
table, he doesn't come back even if he's not actually dead.
I get knocked down, but I jump up again. Nice. Yeah, well, I've seen you taking a keg and an apothecary to Greenstone. Is that for that reason?
Oh yeah, they're both being saved for the Minotaur in general.
Thinking Millsy and I are literally thinking we're going to drive up to Townsville in August. How far is that, Millsy?
It's I think 1400 k or 1200 or 1400 k's, and we'll just travel up for the weekend and do the
I
tournament. and
do
drive
like that
back.
though.
Yeah.
Do you play more? I assume you must play more weekend Blood Bowl, right? Or do you do the 2.5 hours there and back on an evening after work?
Yeah,
Have
no,
done.
it's
Really late.
yeah, we do occasionally. I was up at Babs's. Babs is at Gladstone, so it's 2.5 hours away from me. I went up there on Thursday, and had a couple of games and came back. But they were actually practice matches. They weren't league matches. Those ones. But yeah, like a lot of my travel is going up there. Those guys aren't so hard to travel for them. It's like they either play in Gladstone or Rockhampton, and sometimes we'll have a spotlight round. So like round three might be in Rockhampton. So we'll try and get everyone up to the Rockhampton store up there and play, and then sometimes it'll be down in Gladstone. They haven't had
Yeah.
one down in Bundaberg for me yet.
Well, you get more league players down there. We'll get down there. We'll put spotlight rounds on down there.
Yeah, I know.
But like Townsville's what, 10.5 hours drive?
Uh, yeah. It's wait there. What is
But
it?
for normal people, Millsy, not just for you, that goes all night.
Okay. Well, I
I
will
was
tell
going to
you,
say
lads.
10.5 hours is the day.
No, no,
well,
that's just the travel.
That is a
The day
that's-
happens
yeah,
after.
that's
the
what
travel.
that's what I
So
mean.
how far?
That is a day in itself, just
How
on travelling for us.
how far can you get in the UK if you're traveling for 10.5 hours in a car?
Oh, you're in the
If
sea
you
on the
could
far
drive
side.
the country, yeah, you could drive
well,
the country, I reckon.
last year's Fumble in the Jungle was held in Cairns, and Cairns is near the top of Queensland. It's not at the top, but it's near the top. Uh, After the tournament, I left Cairns at 8:02 in the morning, and I arrived at 3:32 um, the following morning. I suppose I drove all the way through the day, 19 and a half hours on the road in one go. Now
Yeah,
that's
that's not something
kind
to
of
be proud of, mate.
it's very insane. Had a couple of stops along the way, but yeah, it was a 19-hour day. And like I said, from here to get to the bottom of Queensland is still another 7 hours. So like Queensland itself, our state is huge.
Yep.
Which
We
might
make Texas look small.
Yeah.
Hey,
To be fair, I'd like massive credit the fact that you've got such a scene in Australia with that's an insane amount of dedication of time and like effort and resources. So fair play to you lot for keeping a community striving out there.
and look, we've got flights, of course, for those people that are so inclined, but up us in central Queensland just drive it, just hoof it. Maybe they're wizards, because a wizard is never late.
Here is arrives precisely on time. Yeah, something like that.
Precisely when they intended to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he also undermines himself by saying to Frodo that he was delayed in getting to Rivendell. So, how much can you really believe
Yes.
it?
And he did take the Balrog and take all the XP for himself and leveled up.
And he kept all of the loot for himself too.
Yeah.
So true story about that, right? Do you know why the original Narnia book was written, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Well, C.S. Lewis, that was written as like he's a big Christian, isn't he? And that's
Yep,
written
100%.
as very much a like a heaven, and Narnia was
Yeah.
supposed to be a heaven, wasn't it?
Yeah, the whole point is that actually Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were drinking buddies at the same pub. They'd go to the pub every week
Wow.
and drink together. And when Tolkien published Lord of the Rings, C.S. Lewis went, "No, mate, you've got Christianity all wrong. That's not how it works." Because of course Gandalf is the Christ figure, and the Balrog is the devil, right? And
Yep.
and C.S. Lewis goes, "No, mate, that's not how Christianity works. You've got it all wrong." And then wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to explain how it would work in a fantasy setting. So it was literally
There you
a theology debate between Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
You
I
don't know
just
about
don't-
God here.
I just don't think it's fine to call the lion Aslan, which is literally just the word lion in an Arabic language.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I've listened to a Matt Forbeck interview before, and in the novels, what's his name? Dirk Hoffnung. His horse is called Ferd, Pferd, which is literally horse in German. So he said when it got translated to into German, he introduced, "Oh, this is my horse called Horse, not this is
That's
my
right.
This
horse
is my
called Fern."
third called horse.
Yes,
But the point is that
this is my third called.
all the characters in the Matt Forbeck book are just German for whatever they actually are. So like I think the evil wizard is something like dark wizard or something stupid like that in German.
Oh,
And
I pity the
like you know what
Germans, so we'd have to go and buy an English book.
like they're all just really and they're so even the German words are pretty straightforward. Like you can just read what they actually mean. Like it just there's no suspense in the Matt Forbeck books because their names mean who they are. Like it's just stupid.
Who they like introducing a character at the start of the movie called
Yes.
Evil Wizard who's out to destroy you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And we just talked to Evil Wizard who's out to destroy us, and then at the end, oh no, he destroyed us.
But
Didn't see
then
that coming.
the real twist would be that the evil wizard who's out to destroy us is actually your most loyal supporter and friend.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm a catcher on the team, and my name is Evil Backstabber. Yeah, hi.
Yeah, didn't
You'll
see
be my
that
friend. You'll be my friend, won't you? Like
coming.
I'll appear as though I'm nice to you. Yeah, actually, apparently the same thing applies to Star Wars. Apparently, Darth Vader, translated into German, is something like Dark Father.
Yes, yeah, I'd heard that one. Yeah.
So,
It sort of gives away the twist.
it does, doesn't it? Like Empire Strikes Back. Luke, I am your father. Every German in the audience, well, duh. Like,
Yeah, why didn't you say I'm your dark father? Because that's what you're called. Oh, I think we've got too much. If you add in all these outtakes, it's going to be a bumper episode.
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it may stay, it may go. Yeah.
Yes. And it also we also talked about, not that I think I should have got it or anything, but at Ipswichki last year when they did for best coach, all three of my day one coaches didn't show up on day two.
The
So
vote.
the most I could have got was two lots of votes. And I don't think I was the best coach there, so don't get me wrong. But yeah, what do you do in
Well,
those
hang on.
situations?
I think I could work this out, Millsy, because you just explained it, right? You played three opponents and none of them showed up the
Didn't
next
turn up.
day. What did you do?
Okay, so I got ones for those three.
Well, you got worse than a one.
Yeah.
You got a did not vote.
Yeah. Dropouts, etc.
Down Underworld Denizens discusses games, workshops, games, and products such as Blood Bowl, Gutter Bowl, Dungeon Bowl, and Crunch. We also discuss other fantasy football board games and concepts from other companies such as Dread Ball, Guild Ball, Grind, Elf Ball, Myth and Goal, Blitz Bowl, Chaos Ball, Monsters of the Midway, and Feudball. We discuss products and services such as miniatures or software made by producers suitable for several of these board games. Games Workshop terms and conditions in point 2.1 state they grant the user the non-exclusive right to use their authorised intellectual property for broadcasting and other media-related activities such as commentary and opinion pieces, blogs, and other similar informational and descriptive purposes. Down Underworld Denizens respects and honours these terms.